so much. Thank you so much. You may be seated.
Okay, habari. Nzuri.
So when
How are you? Fine.
when I say Malichiani, you say
Tulibuino.
yes.
Mine is from Tanzania. You?
Zambia.
Zambia. But someone from Zambia asked me Ulibwanji.
Yes.
And then I say
Yes.
and Ulibwanji.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be seated. I only said greetings, no pictures. No pictures. Let's be seated, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to host all of you coming from the various beautiful African countries and beyond, Welcome to Zambia. They not only call it the friendliest country in the world, we are also known for our most peaceful environment. But I want to bring it to your attention that you are welcome to the best country in the world. I can hear someone say, no, it's Uganda. Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, to just begin this informal part of the meeting, as we are seated, let's just pray. Father, we give you praise and glory. We thank you for your mercies, your goodness. You have brought so many people from all over Africa and beyond. Thank you for your traveling mercies. Thank you that you've sustained us, you've provided for us, you've protected us. We're praying for those that have traveled, that Lord, you will protect their homes, that Lord God, you will look after their families, that mighty God, you will give them peace of mind as they're here. And together as we deliberate on these very important issues of foundational learning, may you give us wisdom, wit, may you give us rest, even as we speak and exchange ideas. Give us that peace that surpasses understanding. We pray for this meeting that will last 2 days, that Lord God, you'll be in total control. We pray with thanks. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our conference. And I think that in as much as this is informal, the informal part, I just want to let all of us know who is here. And this will just be by mention of country. And if I mention your country, I want you to just make some noise and, celebrate so that we can celebrate with you. Is that possible? Okay, let's try. For the country that starts with A, I'm sure you're used to being announced first. Angola! Is that some joyful noise? Okay, I'll call Angola again. I know we've got 2 bass sounds, but we can make it happen. 1, 2, 3, Angola! Yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we do have other countries, and I now have the pleasure of calling on Sierra Leone. Nice. South Africa. Aha. She chanted something. What did you say? Oh, nice. Oh, that sounds good. And then when you say Amandla, what do we say? Power to the people. Okay. Amandla. Oh, wow. Reminds me of Mandela and fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to announce the Gambia. Fantastic. We also have in the house, I don't know if They should be part of Zambia, but let's celebrate them. Zimbabwe. We also have in the house Ghana. Uganda. We're here. And then this one, really, seriously speaking, is the 11th province in the country, Malawi. Achibweni. And then we also have virtually, we've been joined by Cote d'Ivoire. And for Cote d'Ivoire, let's say the only word I know in French, bonjour. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have 2 other countries, Namibia. Namibia, you're like us, eh? You do utupundu. What do you call it in your country? Oh, tungulungu. Oh, that's for Malawi. Malawi are the same with us. For Namibia, do you have a word for it? Do you have a word for it? Oh, what do you call it? Uluwikila. George, we need to come and rehearse that. Okay. And then we have another country that is worth celebrating in our midst. And this is, okay, I already mentioned Ghana. I think because I'm trying to bribe Ghana to give me the material. What do you call that material again? Yeah, so I'll mention you again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to have you here. We also have our partners. Oh, okay. Let's do that again. Senegal. And then we also have the Republic. Oh my goodness. Wow. Which other country do we have? We have Nigeria. My God, we also have Mauritius. Wow. I'll tell you, Nigeria, I want you to know there are more Nigerians here who are Zambians, and we celebrate. Oh my goodness. Which other country? Oh, wow. Love that country. Beautiful country. Oh, Lesotho. Oh my goodness. We also have the Botswana. Botswana. Lesotho. My goodness. Which other country? I'm wearing your dress. I am a Rwandese wearing a mishasha. Let's celebrate the Rwanda. Rwanda is here. And where else? I even feel like dancing for this one because they teach us all the dances. Actually, your music is so country. It's amazing. Let's celebrate Congo. Dombolo, Dombolo. Which other country do we have? You mentioned the Republic of Benin, but I think it's the way I'm pronouncing it, eh? So it's the Republic of Benin. Which other country is here? We want to celebrate you. We love you. That's what Zambia does best. Oh, we have actually now debating, should I wear shasha or the Ethiopian dress? And now I'm boasting. So we also have Ethiopia in the house. Where's Ethiopia? Where? Oh, there we are. For Ethiopia. Any other country? Even if you're alone, you are representing your country. Any other country that is here? Madagascar, I announced. Yes, let's just celebrate Madagascar again. Any other country? Yes. Malagasy. Madagascar. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Nice one. Madagascar with the very long names. Ravlama Manano, those ones. When you're reading the news, you have to memorize to read the name. And but they're lovely people, and we celebrate Madagascar. Any other country? Any other country? It doesn't. No, hold on, audit. They say no. What about Zambia? No, wait. Wait, in fact, that's why they put Z. We are last. Yes. Any other country, it doesn't have to be African. Any other country that is here. USA! Just hearing you, USA, I want to change my accent. Just want to talk like, because I need water. Apart from USA, which other country, which is not African, we want to celebrate you? Argentina? Wow! Argentina! We love you and Maradona. The United Kingdom is here. Let's celebrate. Yes, yes. Come on. My brother from another mother. Burkina Faso. Fantastic, yes. Finland. It's a real country. Let's celebrate Finland. Yes. Oh my God, where we get all our Brazilian hair. Brazil! We want to be like you so much. We buy your hair. Aha. Oh my goodness. How is President? The George Weah, but before him. Yes. Hello. How's Johnson, President Johnson Sirleaf, the one before? Oh, fantastic. Let's celebrate Liberia. Woo-hoo! Okay, I have to stop before I'm fired. But we celebrate all of you and thank you for coming to Zambia. And as you, Eritrea. Oh my goodness, Eritrea. Thank you so much. I hope I haven't left out any country. And I don't want you coming, no, you forgot our country. Okay, we celebrate you all. And again, in just a few days, if you stay a little bit longer, you will agree with me that Zambia indeed is the best country in the whole wide world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick announcement. I'm told in case you need headsets, headphones for interpretation, because some of us understand all languages like French. Apart from bonjour, I do know another word, le pantalon. So unlike us who understand all these languages, if you don't, please feel free to walk over to the tech table and get your headset, but you do need to sign somewhere so that you don't go away with our headsets. We say this with love. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to that point where we begin our informal meeting so that we get into discussions almost right away. And if you can, please help me welcome the permanent secretary who's responsible for educational services, Mr. Joe Kamoko, to give us a progress report on foundational learning. Let's just put our hands together for Mr. Joe Kamoko. I think we can do better than that. Give a big hand to the permanent secretary, Mr. Joe Kamoko.
From here or there? Where am I reading from? It's not on laptop. Okay. Thank you so much, Director of Events. You're so full of life. I know our sisters from Malawi would say, Mulinda mpamvu nga kwa mai. And I am very sure the Zimbabweans would say, unosha misira. And the South Africans would say, hey, when I'm fast. And you say, Damandla, but you ended on the way. Okay, and I would go on and on, but I think I want us to recognize the warmth in this room. Our ministers and your entourages, you're making us feel at home. Our various experts who are in this room, the conveners, I will not go into the standard protocols until we get into the formal meeting. But for purposes of this presentation, my responsibility this morning is to present to you the country reports on Zambia's journey in prioritizing foundational learning. I will wait to be assisted by IT so that we move at the same pace. Can I take it? We are ready, IT? Okay, so while we wait for you, we will proceed then. So Zambia embarked on this journey on a series of measures to boost foundational learning in the country. Notable among them is our own government catch-up education program, Catch Up. You know, when you left behind, you catch up. When you're too far, sometimes just slow down a little so that everybody else can catch up. So what is this then pilot program, which is called Catch Up in Zambia? Catch Up in Zambia focuses on children in school, but not learning. Because of poor performance in 2013, our Ministry of Education issued a directive that all schools must implement a catch-up program to help learners reach their grade level in numeracy and literacy. This directive did not specify a methodology, and schools were left to decide on their own approach. In 2014, the national assessment in fact showed that 65% of the children in grade 2 were unable to read a single word in their own local language. And you know how disastrous that can be. If your own children cannot read a single word in their own local language. They can hear, they can't see. They are illiterate. So looking for solutions then, the ministry began working with partners, local and international experts, to identify approaches that could help. One of the programs explored was the accelerated learning approach, teaching the right level, which was rigorously evaluated and consistently improves learning outcomes when well implemented. After a learning journey, having traveled to India, where we saw the processes, we developed a contextualized version of what we saw and renamed it Catch Up, together with our partners, UNICEF, JIPAL Africa, Paratram, who created TAL Africa, DFID, and VVOB, who've been faithful partners this far. In the Catch Up that we delivered to the learners, this was contextually looking at grades 4, 5, and 6. Sorry, 3, 4, and 5. And teachers of these grades have been trained in this methodology. What do? They assess children on basic reading and math skills and then group them by learning level, not age or grade. So you group them according to their ability to read and write and raise them as they catch up. So for an hour a day, children focus on foundation reading and maths using accelerated learning methodology. Catch-up lessons are included in the school calendar as an extra hour a day, 5 days a week. The idea is that that learner who doesn't read and write can break through. What are the key characteristics of the catch-up classroom? Lessons are supposed to be fun, interactive, incorporating games that help the learners to learn basic skills. There is a mixture of whole class activities, small group work, and independent work. Classes involve learners handling simple materials that can be made locally. For instance, bottle tops, sticks, stones, as long as they're not used to stone each other. What is the other aspect of this catch-up? Monitoring and mentoring. During the implementation, teachers and schools receive support from classroom visits by mentors within the school, such as senior teachers, or what we call in Zambia, SIX. There are also ZIPs. And then from external monitors such as the ZIX, the DRCCC, the PRCCC. These are resource persons that look after the in-service aspect in a school or in a district or at the province. Then you have what are called EOT, the education officer in teacher education. And then obviously the standard officers who are at all levels. What's the history then of catch-up? We will see that if you're looking at what's before us now, we have the directive issued, the creation of a work group, alongside us traveling to India to learn, as I already alluded to, our relationship with the USAID group coming in to fund and give us an opportunity to pilot and launch, and proceeding to review the meetings and decisions to scale up to those numbers of schools that are shown there. And you note by July 2017, the pilot was concluded. And so in 2018, we opted to scale up to 270 schools in Zambia, and a little later to 1,114 schools. And as we noticed in 2020, you have our numbers as shown there. Again, we noticed that at that point, when that funding there came to an end, we scaled up to the other provinces, meaning that we were empowered to proceed. We decided to make it our program alongside our ever faithful partner, VVOB, and the others who might be shy to mention. And again, if you check there, the governance was coordinated at that level. You have the National Catch-up Coordination Committee. Then in our structures, you have the regional or the provincial education office, where you have all the personalities here mentioned and identified. Then you have the district education board secretary's office. Again, you have the DEBs, the DESO, the ESOs, the DRCC, the DPO, and the ESO. And then we do have the zone resource center. A number of schools are put together. And then you identify the schools like primary, the school administration, and the others here mentioned. Please, let's proceed. So you'll notice that these are our numbers in that period as we moved in. And again, you will see the initial starting point was Eastern and Southern. That were the entry points, which grew to Eastern, Southern, Western, Muchinga, Northwestern. Zambia consists of 10 provinces. And then you notice that Eastern, Southern, Muchinga, Northern, Lusaka, and Luapula. And so we noticed that the country has gone crazy with the concept of catch-up. Next. Here we are. That's our map of Zambia. You know, it's as beautiful as you see it. And so we talk about the numbers. Again, you notice that we kept increasing the numbers from the initial point up to where we are. And learning outcomes keep improving as the program scales up further. Here we are. We noticed that at the initial stage, we had children who could not do basic arithmetic. For those of you and I who had to do mental arithmetic. If I say 14 times 14, I expect you to say 196, not to look for a calculator. It's 14 times 10 and 14 times 4. 56 and 140 equals, am I right? Welcome home. That was mental arithmetic. So you will notice that our own children today, every little thing you say 2 plus 3, calculator. So we said, let's take them back to the old ways. And what was the result? Why do we appreciate? No, it's all right. Please go on. Why do we appreciate catch-up? It's learner-centered. Learners exhibit more confidence and freedom to learn. Teachers can focus on specific learning goals. Teachers prepare lessons appropriate for the children's levels, not children's grades. Teachers feel free to be creative and emphasize, there's a lot of emphasis on mentorship and monitoring. And what does this do? It renews the focus on numeracy in addition to literacy. What does this mean? Obviously, this story has had its own constraints. Like any other good story, we have challenges associated with outside or regular school hours, because you need a little extra time outside their regular time, dependent on the good wishes, because you do not have a spatial incentive other than the children break through, and that's what excites our teachers. I was once a grade 1 teacher, so I know how frustrating when a child can't get what you're saying. It's like you're talking to yourself. You must make sense to the children for them to learn. And that's what it does. Also, we have a challenge of, obviously, insufficient infrastructure because the other rooms are occupied. So you notice there we decide, I think even under this tree, we shall do some creativity. Some have gone a little further than a few benches, a few logs, and others. The scheduling of the timetables, sometimes the same teacher wants to be in 3 places at once, which is not possible. But here are the lessons then that we learned. We've now realized that if learning is to be effective, leadership must be visible. Leadership must be exhibited at all times. Parental involvement is important. After all, the parent is the first teacher. When I learn mama, it's not from dad. And normally children will never say papa first, it's mama. Even when we cry, am I right? So the first teacher is obviously parental in nature, and monitoring is extremely important. Now with the cry for us to have the huge numbers, sometimes we overcrowd children, but when we monitor, we can isolate the ones that are not doing well. Catch-up presents an opportunity to learners to re-enter the education system with confidence. They come back and realize, I can break through, I can read and write. And when you can read and write, everything else doesn't matter. Because the power is reading and writing. So schools with feeding programs have proven to us that they have higher level performance. We all have to agree in Africa that one of our challenges is good nutrition. And when the children come hungry, they rarely pay attention. So you bring in an aspect of school feeding programs, give them a bit of this protein, that in maize meal, whatever it is you can afford. You'll be surprised how much the children, because of that, want to stay in school and perform better. Teachers benefit from school-based support because now you are able to discuss what's making these children break through. And even as you teach the initial class, you also change your approach. After all, we all say teaching is didactics. If your method is right, your pedagogy is right, you're good to go because the learner is the focus and not you the facilitator. So the practice of new methods becomes essential. You no longer become comfortable in the old zone. And that's why CPD programs are extremely important. So what is Zambia saying and reporting to this house? It's possible that other strategies as PLP are also contributing to the improved performance. But it is very clear that teacher delivery and learner absenteeism or student absenteeism has changed because of catch-up. So what do we still need to do different? We think we need to integrate catch-up into our college curriculum. And thankfully for Zambia, we are going the educational reform process. Sooner or later, our minister will be making very exciting changes when we have done the validation processes. And we're ready, because we do want to produce pupils who can read and write. We're going to ensure that the data portal is regularly updated at all levels to inform decision-making. Many a time we make decisions based on what we're trained in college, but want to deal with the real data, real-time data, so that our decisions reflect the performance of both administration, parents, participation, as well as the learners themselves and their outcomes. Then there's also a call for cross-pollination of best practice. You integrate, you bring other, you become, I'm looking for a word that the methodology experts use. They say you must be able to bring different methods together without being too comfortable with one, and realize different learners have different needs. And also we intend to integrate in the school regular hours so that we don't treat it more as an extra effort, but an everyday effort. So there are remedial measures, take care while I teach. We further as a country want to strengthen the national sitting body that coordinates so that we're more effective in what we do. And we trust that this will be accompanied by regular research and evaluation to assess impact on learning outcomes. So as a country, our concept is National Sustainable Plan. How do we go on? One, obviously we all know that at some point you come to a point where he who has stayed side by side says, pick it up from here. So by 2026, we want to see catch-up implemented in all provinces as the national strategy for remedial and accelerated learning, which was laid and funded by government and implemented with quality with minimum or no NGO support. So we want to take responsibility. We are conscious that one day the donors may also want to help another country. But further, to ensure sustainability of catch-up by strengthening the capacity of the Ministry of Education to lead and institutionalize the program by 2026. We want to be the governance and champion building where we have sufficient ability to share based on results. We want to ensure that financial sustainability of catch-up by integrating the program in national plans, including all costs in government budgets in 2026. As you notice, for us, we've started the journey of free education. And along it, we are bringing in whatever it takes. So we are not going to treat our children as just numbers. We want quality. We want readers. We need mathematicians, the ITs out of them. Ultimately, it's our intention that we will have systems and processes to ensure sustainability of catch-up by integrating all the elements of the program in government structures by 2026. Well, I could have said a lot more, but may I pay credit to the institutions I mentioned earlier, Tala Africa, VVOB, our ever faithful friend, UNICEF, the Lego Foundation. You've been here, you've seen the works as we speak. If you visited a few, you'd see in person and you'd cry with excitement. Same to HLPDF Foundation, and indeed all the other partners and our big supporter, USA, GPE, the Belgium. Obviously, where would we be without ZOX and World Vision? And wow, when all is said and you work well, there's always the impact. So welcome to the Zambian story. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Let's just give him another big hand. I'm very excited about the CHAP program that he's talked about. I think I like my mic better. So I'm very excited about the CHAP program that he talked about. Just 3 months ago, is it? We had about 22 countries visiting Zambia to just come and have a look at what we're doing. And that's just so amazing when you're doing something and sometimes you're not too sure if you're doing it right because you yourselves are criticizing maybe this or that. And then you hear that other countries want to learn from you. So it was very exciting to have these 22 countries to come and see what we're doing regards catch up. And as the Piet was talking, he was mentioning a few of the many partners that we have. And I will be officially announcing you as we begin the formal part of the program when the Minister of Education is here, so that we can just celebrate, because it is not possible for us to achieve anything without our partners. Ladies and gentlemen, another big hand for our Permanent Secretary responsible for Education Services. I'm very excited about the next part of the program because it involves a number of our partners to come and say something and just highlight on what they've achieved, highlight on how they've been partnering with the various ministries, and especially the Ministry of Education. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we do have our first partner, and she's joining us online. And this is Mrs. Sophia Ashipala, who is the head of Education Division, ESTI Department from the my favorite mic. Okay. Okay. So ESTI department from the African Union Commission. So she's joining us virtually. I don't know if we have Mrs. Sophia Ashipala.
Yes, I am here. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear. Can we see you?
Yes, the host has blocked my video. Can you open my video? I'm trying to open it.
Okay, Mrs. Ashipala, thank you so much. We can hear you loud and clear. I think the visual will come along, but for now, you could begin.
All right. Thank you so much, Program Director. Greetings to everybody who is in the room. I'm looking forward for my video, and I'm looking forward also to see you all. Greetings, dear excellencies, dear ministers. Such an overwhelming representation from a number of African countries and beyond. Thank you so much for invitation, ADEA. I'm very much excited to be part of this high-level meeting. How I wish I was there in person. However, because of circumstances, I was unable to attend, but be it as it may be, we thank God for technology, and here we are engaging with one another. As I said, thank you. Really, my name, as it was mentioned, I am Sophia Ashipala, and I am speaking to you from the African Union Commission, and I am the head of education in the Department of Education, Science, Technology.
Madam Sophia.
Yes.
Kindly switch on your video. Apparently, blocking yourself. Oh my God, you're beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are so much full of energy. I love your energy, and I believe this is going to be a very wonderful meeting indeed, with you directing it. Greetings to you once again, your excellencies, dear honorable ministers, colleagues, government officials, partners, and everybody in the room. I'm really excited to see each one of you. I was actually participating in the greeting, in the country greeting. As you were greeting one another, I was trying to greet you and pick up also some of the greetings from different countries. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I'm honored indeed to speak to you virtually about the importance of strengthening foundational learning in Africa. I'm going to be very brief, but however, before I start, I want to share with you that the African Union has adopted education as a theme of the year for 2024. And one of the second objective and outcomes is on strengthening foundational learning. So you need to understand that this topic is really close to our hearts as we want to galvanize member states and to bring them into remembrance again that this topic of foundational learning is really important. So as we gear up to celebrate the theme of the year throughout 2024, we believe that having foundational learning as the center of this theme, and also one of the outcomes, it will bring an impact to what we are looking for. So foundational learning is the essential skill that children need to succeed in school and in life. It includes literacy, it includes numeracy, and also problem-solving skills. So you heard from the PS, from his presentation, that if a child cannot read and write, really, you will not even understand what is going on. So unfortunately, too many children in Africa are not getting the foundational learning they need. According to the recent report from the World Bank, only 53% of African children in grade 5 can read and understand a simple story, and only 37 can solve basic maths problems. As the PS was saying that mostly when a math problem is presented, our children always run to calculators. We become lazy depending on calculators, and we are unable to solve simple maths. This is a crisis, and we want to bring an end to it, because it means that millions of children are falling behind school and are unlikely to reach their full potential. But there is good news, because we know what we need to do to strengthen foundational learning in Africa. I have here with me 4 key points that I want to share with you this morning on what I think we can do to strengthen foundational learning and to bring about improvement in the statistics, to bring down such statistics, which is really disappointing, indicating the number of African children that are unable to read and write or do a simple math. And one of them is, first of all, we need to invest in early childhood education. What do I mean by this investment? This investment is not only about acquiring textbooks, acquiring learning materials, but having proper infrastructure. My heart was bleeding when I saw the visual of children sitting still on the ground under the tree in the presentation of the PS. Until when are we going to have children sitting under the tree on the ground? And for our own information, if you ask those children, the longest distance that they are traveling to reach school is overwhelming. Going and coming back, coming to a school, and the classroom is under a tree, and they are also sitting on the ground. So whatever the teacher will try to do in that classroom, obviously, the mind of the child is already overwhelmed. The mind of the child is already tired. I believe that if we invest in early childhood by trying little by little to improve our infrastructure, having proper classrooms that are conducive, increasing access, to see to it that we reduce the distance that are traveled by our children. Some of them, they are very, very young, but on a daily basis, they are covering the longest distance to access the school. So this will lead to some of them dropping out, some of them unable to access the school because indeed it is really far. So investing in early childhood, let's consider some of those. Having the proper classrooms that are conducive, and also to increase access, to see where our catchment areas is, to go to the marginalized communities and to see that we have schools there that are providing education to reduce in the distance which are traveled by our learners. Early childhood education is the most effective way to ensure that children have the strong foundation that they need to succeed in school and in life. So that was my first point, investing in early childhood education, but also mostly considering in our infrastructure, considering the school access to children in all our areas. The second one, we need to improve the quality of teaching, because even if we have a proper infrastructure, we have schools everywhere, but our quality of teaching, because it is our teacher who are delivering this content to our learners. Teachers are the most important factor in determining student learning. We need to invest in teacher training and development. We need to create a supporting environment for teachers to do their best. What do I mean? We need to care for the well-being of the teachers. The teachers sometimes, when they go and teach in remote far areas, there are no teachers' houses, there are no basic facilities. So these are the things that we also need to look at, because when our teachers are not taken care of, they will not deliver to the high standards that we want. We should also support them, provide them with psychosocial support, provide them with counseling, because they are carrying a lot of burden, not only their own, but also carrying the burdens of the children. Because how I know the teachers, as I also was a teacher, when the children come to you and share with you their own issues and stories, you end up carrying that one for yourself. It becomes a burden for you. So we should also provide a platform to provide or to give, to support them through psychosocial support, to motivate them when they do well. We should have these events in our countries where we appreciate our teachers, where we motivate them, where we inspire them. We appreciate the good work that they are doing, despite the circumstances that they are working in. So that is my second point, the quality of teaching. This is now on teacher development and also on the well-being of teachers, to take care of their welfare, to see to it that they are motivated and they are also provided with psychosocial support, so that we don't have depressed teachers and at the end of the day, they will not be able to deliver in their classroom. The third point that I want to share with you, we need to make sure the children have access to quality learning. This is now the learning materials. This is the textbooks, the workbooks, and other resources for them to learn effectively. We need to make sure that the process of acquiring these resources are less complex. Most of the time, we can have resources, but acquiring them, it is taking us the longest time, and the process has a lot of bottlenecks. In the end, resources will get lost in transit, and when it reaches the children, it's in minimal number. So access to quality learning, to see to it that in the classroom, as the children are there resources, the proper resources that are moving ahead with time also. Remember, when we were hit by COVID, most of the schools were closed, and the online learning was not reaching to everybody. It was only reaching to those that were well off, but mostly in rural areas, this was not an option at all. So we also need to think in that direction, to move ahead with time, and also to be able to stand in an event when something like that happened to us again. The last point, which is the fourth point that I want to share with you, we need to create a culture of learning in our homes and communities. And this one is really important. And during the theme of the year, we really want to go and reach out to communities to bring about understanding our stakeholder, because there is a saying which is saying that it takes the whole village to educate a child. So we need to bring our parents, our communities on board, to bring them in understanding that they have an interest in the education of the children, to encourage the children, to inspire them to come to school and monitor their work. I know that a lot has been taking place. Many schools, they are really trying, organizing Parents' Day, book viewing, but we still need to do more. We still need to do more to bring our communities, to bring our parents on board, to support our schools, to support the children, and to assist them in their learning process. So parents and caregivers play a vital role in supporting the children learning. We need to encourage them to be partakers, to talk to them about life in general, to encourage them and to motivate them. And school should not only be something that is taking place in the school, but also in a home. I believe that strengthening foundational learning is not just an educational issue, it is also
Madam
a developmental issue.
I'm giving you 30 seconds to
Thank
end.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I am about to finish. So it is also a developmental issue. So when children have skills they need to succeed in school, they are more likely to be employed and also earn a good living. And then our community will also be free from all kinds of social evils because our children understand and they can think for themselves. They are also more likely to participate in civics life and more positive contribution to their communities. So therefore, I call on all of us to work together to strengthen foundational learning in Africa. It is the best investment we can make for our children's future and for the future of the continent. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to me. Thank you so much, Program Director, for according me this opportunity and the chance to speak to you. I'm really, really excited and I'm following the program all the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Sophia Ashipala. A big hand for that wonderful presentation. A big hand, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Minister of Education has just joined us, and he's joined us in his capacity as one that is representing His Excellency, the Republican President of Zambia, His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Let's just give him a big hand as he's joined us. I'm happy to inform you that yes, we are planning for the official beginning and the national anthem, the pomp and splendor that goes with these official beginning meetings of meetings. But just now, the minister will join us in these presentations. He will listen and just allow for us to talk about what was prepared. And I think that is quite humbling. Let's just give him a big hand. I'm really grateful that Madam Sophia touched on a number of issues. I think what jumped at me is the fact that she talked about teacher development. Really, we can't expect children to thrive and to do well if their teachers are not qualitative in their presentation of lessons and they don't have that love for the children. So it's important that she mentioned that quite a bit in her presentation. Let's give Madam Sophia another big hand for that great presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, for our next partner, our next speaker, I'd like you to make welcome Dr. Benjamin Piper, Director, Global Education Program, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. A big hand.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you, Your Excellencies. Exciting to be in your presence to talk about this important topic. I have 4 quick points and I'll be very brief. My goal is to win the contest for being the briefest of all. So I'll give you one of the statistics that people like me normally come to this conference with. Here it is. In my beloved Ethiopia, where I live and my family is from, 3% of children could pass the matric exam at the end of secondary school. After years of education, the top and best in Ethiopia will come for an assessment, and only 3% could pass and make it to the next level. That's the normal kind of statistic that we share, and those results are very recent. They just happened a couple of months ago. But I want to change the narrative a little bit and share you some statistics from Liberia, a country that was able to show with new innovations that learning outcomes can really improve. That in Liberia, in this new program called Luminous Fund, supporting children with structured pedagogy, teachers were able to double learning outcomes, more than twice as much learning after 1 year. So my encouragement to this conversation is to think about how to talk more about situations like Liberia, where learning outcomes doubled, than situations where learning outcomes are bad. This is a fundamentally important moment for the foundational literacy and numeracy movement. We've had the Transforming Education Summit. We had in Mauritius a very exciting triennial from ADEA. We've had many events where this issue of foundational learning has come onto the fore. I see, Helen, you had a recent learning conference on literacy to talk about some of the good things. Here's my first point. We know what works to improve learning. Tell your neighbor, we know what works.
We know what works.
And also tell them, you're probably already doing it.
You probably already doing it.
And tell your neighbor, if you aren't, start today.
If you're not doing it, start today.
We know what works to improve learning. There was a recent report called the JEEP, Global Education Evidence Advisory Panel, that looked at the evidence worldwide of what can improve learning outcomes. And it showed that there are 2 new interventions that have consistent effectiveness. So can you tell those 2? It's called structured pedagogy. Structured pedagogy is a set of typical interventions. I'll call out Kenya because they're a country that's done this at scale. In Kenya, structured pedagogy program meant teachers had lesson plans. Those lesson plans connected to student books. Those student books were trained on with teachers, and those teachers had support. That 4 simple things: books, materials, training, support. That combination has consistent evidence at scale. That's point number 1. If you want to know how to be more effective, do a structured pedagogy program. Number 2, the second highly effective program is what we heard about from the PS in Gambia, and we'll hear about from the minister. This teaching at the right level type approach, organizing classrooms to provide support to learners at their level. Point number 1, we know what works. Point number 2, structured pedagogy is one of those things. And point number 3, teaching at the right level is the other. The 4th point I want to make is that the thing that we face is the question of how to do this at scale. How do we do this at scale? Tell your neighbor, scale.
Yeah.
Scale, maybe you have a classroom or a school or a program that you love. The real question is, how do we make this work at scale? It's actually a question for the researchers and the partners and the implementers in the room. And for the ministers in the room, how do you get the system to work at high quality at scale? That is an open question. And there are some evidence, there's some studies that have done that effectively. There's a study called Learning at Scale and Numeracy at Scale that have shown highly effective, large-scale programs using structured pedagogy or teaching at the right level. Let me name some of the countries that exist. Madam Minister, your country, South Africa, is one of those that have shown effectiveness at large scale. We have programs in Kenya. We have programs in Ghana. We have programs in Nigeria. We have programs in Tanzania. It is possible to combine both the instructional components that we heard about from the last speaker with the system components inside of complex systems in countries like Uganda that have done this in many different languages at scale. So for me, the real task of this meeting is to combine these 4 things. We know what works. Those things are structured pedagogy. Those things are teaching at the right level. The task that remains in front of us is to take the leadership of these ministries, of these ministers, of the system to make sure these things work at scale and inside of affordable contexts. I think I will win the contest for briefest, but I hope you remember the points I'm saying. Thank you very much and look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
And this year's award for the fastest presentation in the world goes to Dr. Piper. Wow. I got my point. I don't know if you ladies and gentlemen got yours. For me, it was, we know what works. What did you get? Structured. Why would D and G be together? I mean, pedagogy, structured pedagogy. And then what else? I'm just checking. I'm just checking for you if they were listening. Yeah. What else? Teaching at the right level. Wow. Perfect presentation, nice and short, to the point. Thank you for those reminders and also just pointers that are also enhancing what we are already doing. And yes, we do know what works. Another big hand for Dr. Piper. Your Excellency, you may wish to know that we've had a presentation by the Permanent Secretary responsible for education services, and he updated the rest of the world that is here represented. He updated them on what Zambia is doing, the progress made, talked about the catch-up program. So that's some of the things that you've missed. And then also we had Madam Sophia from Namibia giving us pointers on teacher development. And to her, just want to boast of the fact that I've learned some languages. We say, Tangi unene meme. The Namibians, have I said that right? Yes, of course. Give me a big hand. Yes, that simply means thank you so much, Mom. And that was going to the Madame Sophia Ashipala. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on, we now go to the next speaker. And I do have the pleasure of calling on Dr. Abiageli Obi Ezekwesi, who is founder, president, Human Capital Africa, HCA, and School of Politics, Policy and Governance, SPPG, coming all the way from Nigeria. I'll just call her Dr. Obi. A big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
I think the Zambians have someone they could export to the rest of Africa. There's so much energy coming from the moderator. So perhaps we want to start by just clapping for our wonderful moderator. Yes, your moderating skills are excellent. And I love to see young women who thrive in their chosen pathway. Ladies and gentlemen, especially the Minister of Education representing the President of Zambia and the ministers from across our countries on the continent. What a delight to be in your midst. I also really am excited at the huge and impressive turnout to this event by our partner organization. Albert, this is really great. The energy in the room speaks for the kind of work that ADEA constantly does to promote education on our continent. I would use my own time to really reiterate some of the messages that we already heard. I do have a bit of context to the little knowledge that I have about the purpose for our gathering. I used to be Minister of Education in Nigeria in the early 2000s of my life. And then I was Vice President at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., responsible for our region. And so in that capacity, I had to deal with many of the ministers, at least most of the ministers of the 48 countries that we were responsible for at that time. And one thing that is very clear is that until our continent absolutely stops loving oil, copper, gold more than it loves its people, we will be drifting. We are laggards in development simply because we do not take pride in what human development represents. And I think that the existence of organizations like ADEA compel us to do the right thing by prioritizing education. In prioritizing education, we do not in any way condemn all other possibilities, but we do what we know that other countries did on their pathway to prosperity and stability. When we then say education is important, which is what we're going to hear us say a lot in the coming year, AU Year of Education, you're going to hear political leaders talk about how important education is to them. But that's not going to be enough, because we have had a lot of rhetorics on our continent, rhetorics that amounted eventually to no action. But what we need is desperate action, because we're in desperate times for our children. The year 2030 is right here. It's unbelievable. We entered the millennium thinking it was just going to be a long time, but here we are. By the time we're in 2035, and we're looking at what has happened with the SDGs, ladies and gentlemen, it would be terrible to see the kind of dismal statistics that really are the story across the countries of our continent, as far as the matter of education is concerned. So there is no better audience that can carry the message of the urgency of action that is necessary to center education, but not just to center education, because that's the point of the focus on foundational learning. To focus education by correcting the foundation. There is a distortion to the foundation, and that distortion is costing us at all other levels of education. If we do not correct and give our children the solid foundation, then we would be investing blindly in all the other things that we consider to be important. And so my central message is really, dear ministers, and I know many of you as very dear friends of mine, and I know the work that you're doing, we must not lose what is important to gain in the year of education. In the year of education, as we walk into it, we're going to have to get our political leaders to not do what the Chinese proverb says. What you're doing is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. They must not just simply blab about education. They must give you all the wherewithal and the support, the visibility, the complete attachment to evidence and data to drive the process of the adoption of the kinds of things that Dr. Piper was talking about. We do need to know that we can change this. Some of the programs that are changing the issue of foundational literacy, dismal learning outcomes of our children are known. A lot of them are actually driven by our own people. So that sense of ownership of the solution is already there. Whether it's the work of TAL, it's the work of Learn Nigeria, it's the work of PAL Network, it's the work of, I forget my friends in South Africa that have a major learning program. Pardon? Fundawande. We have these things. So adoption of the things that work. We can change learning outcomes for our children within a year in each environment. We must be willing to adopt examples that work. And then we must be very ambitious about how far we can go, which is what that conversation about scale is all about. You know, people take pride in doing little pilots that show that a few urban schools in the city are now improving learning. That's not good enough. Every conversation about inequality on our continent is because, of course, naturally, the middle class of Africa sometimes don't see the rest of their country. We simply focus on the ones who've got the voice. But the ones who have the voice are too little. We need to run education for those that are voiceless. And you know that voicelessness comes with poverty. If we have a larger majority of our people poor, it means that they cannot affect the political incentives that drive the kinds of choices we're making. So I'm here to just sort of plead on behalf of our children that we can't at all be lethargic. We can't allow the year of education to be a normal year. I tell you the story of years at the AU because I know a bit about it. As VP at the World Bank, I nurtured a strong relationship with our continent's most important institution. So I was part of the year of telecommunication. To make it work, you really had to make the presidents uncomfortable about failure. And that's how come a lot of countries across our continent began to liberalize the telecom sector. I was there as part of the year of trade. To make it work, we had to needle them until they could not rest. And they stopped making just mere declarations and got inside the hall better conversation driven by evidence on the things that would make us get the AFCFTA that we're also proud about. The next level, of course, is to now implement it effectively. I was there concerning the year of agriculture. And that's how needled until we got CADEP, the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, a mechanism that forces people to really look at the evidence on which agriculture policy must be anchored. So we've been done this part before. Ministers of Education, this is your year. This is your year. Presidents must become chief learning officers of their countries. You must tell your president, sir, you're the chief learning officer and I am your deputy. And I need you to tell the Minister of Finance that she's my co-deputy. Did you see that I used she? Chief Learning Officer, Mr. President, Deputy Chief Learning Officer, Minister of Education and Minister of Finance. Why is that important? And the Permanent Secretary is this Chief Learning Execution Officer. Why is that important? It is important because this accountability is so at the heart of how this year of education will work. Accountability. We really need this for our children. It is desperate. And when you are in desperate situation, you must show it in your action. I represent Human Capital Africa, and as part of the process of supporting what we do around making foundational literacy and numeracy the center of our correcting the education situation on our continent, we have what we call the Human Capital Africa Scorecard. There are 2 countries that we're already working with and 3 states in Nigeria. It really just helps you to see the data points that are important to be fixed. And I look forward to greater interaction today and for the rest of the months. But I want to end on a positive note. The positive note is really that there's absolutely nothing that Africans put their mind to do that they did not do. I need you to understand that. The fact that we don't get things done is because we decided to not do them. And I know there are a different set of people in this room today, and that none of us should be comfortable with our privileges. We have had the privilege of sound and quality education that got us thus far. Now, there is a duty imposed on us that the year of education will be the year that will surely and truly make it a better pathway of progress for the children of our continent. I thank you.
I think she deserves another big hand. What a passionate woman. Wow. You know, when she was speaking, I just felt like we should just run outside and start education. You know, that energy. Thank you so much for reminding us of how urgent this issue is. And I like one of her lines. She said, that's Dr. Obi, said that desperate times. And these are desperate times because this age group is forgotten. We are concentrating on more on the primary, secondary, and when they're already big and we can't change their attitude, we can't change their character. It can be done when they're babies in their formative stages. Let's give her another big hand. Thank you so much, Dr. Obi. And Dr. Obi, I must warn you, Zambia is in fact known for grabbing a lot of people. We do have a lot of land. We do have a lot of citizenship opportunities. So you can come over and we can give you a name, a Zambian name, just to Zambianize you. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have yet more speakers. And at this point, I do have the pleasure of calling on another speaker and yes, another partner in the name of Miss Muna Salih Meki, practice manager with the World Bank. Let's just give her a big hand. All the people that are coming here, very humble, you know, wait until I am like Dr. Obi, with former minister written on my forehead so that you know, but we thank God for your humility. A big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for having me. It is difficult to follow Dr. Obi, who was my boss many years ago at the World Bank, and it's so great to see her again in this very passionate role. Thank you. I think first I'd like to just thank Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real honor to be here, and thanks to ADEA for organizing us and the government of Zambia for hosting us. I think before we start talking about the challenges of the future, I would think we should take 1 second to celebrate what we have done so far. If you look at the last 2 decades, 100 million more children are in the education system. We have almost made gender parity in primary schools, and that is because of the efforts of the governments and the stakeholders. And so we have made big changes, and I think we can use those successes as we move forward. The World Bank particularly is, of course, here as a partner as we address the high levels of learning poverty. As Ben said, I think we know what the technical solutions are. The real issue is how do we address these issues at scale? We had the Dar Summit with the government of Tanzania a few months ago to start to think about how should we at the bank reorganize ourselves to help support governments work on these challenges at scale. And there are about 5 areas that have come out as important, and we hope that we can continue to partner with many of you on those. I think first are teachers. We know to even cut out of school children by a half, you will need to hire around 6 million teachers. That is a huge cost to government budgets, but it's not just hiring those teachers, it's ensuring that they are effective. For us, we're very eager to work with partners who are working in this area. We're happy to have Ben, who's really an expert on these teacher issues, and we'll continue to partner with those who can bring us and help us think about how we can support governments in ensuring teachers are effective. I think second is classrooms. I know we don't talk about it, but how can children learn if there's nowhere for them to go? We estimate that about 3 million classrooms will need to be built to address the incoming demographics and ensure that children have a space to learn. That is very expensive. We are thinking about coming up with a regional team of experts to help us support governments in building cost-efficient, climate-resistant, and sustainable classrooms. This is a big program for us, and we hope that we can work with you as we move forward. And we know it's a very big priority for the governments. And in fragile states, it might not be regular classrooms we have to think about. We might need to be innovative about how do we support children who are learning in areas of fragility. I think 3, it's technology. We know technology has a huge power to improve learning, but it also has opportunities to leave children behind. How do we think about using technology in a way that is inclusive so all children learn? 4th, it's around gender. I see our colleagues in South Africa is here. We are concerned about girls and ensuring girls have access, but in many countries in Southern Africa, it is the boys that are being left behind, and we cannot forget that. So it's how do we think about ensuring no children are left behind as we look at access and quality. And I think last is something that Obi spoke quite a bit about, which are systems, measurement, accountability. And again, we hope to work with the Africa Human Capital Project and other projects to support governments as they expand the system, but ensure ensure the system is effective. Now, what does that mean in the way we do our programs? We are trying to move away from project-focused approaches to programmatic approaches. For us, that's called results-based financing, but supporting the full government program rather than supporting little siloed parts of it. In DRC, for example, as they announced their big free primary education program, we came in with 800 million to support the larger program, to support all the aspects of bringing children back to school. This is how we would like to move in the future, supporting governments on the full program rather than just specific interventions. We think that will help us get to scale and supporting governments get to scale. So I think just on that, I would like to say thank you very much. We at the World Bank are really looking inward as to how can we work differently. We're happy to be here at ADEA and talking to many of you to get ideas and how we can support governments in this big focus and approach that they have. So I don't know if I beat Ben, but I think so. So thank you so much. Bye.
Oh my goodness. Looks like Dr. Piper has a competitor. Ladies and gentlemen, another big hand for our lovely representation coming from the World Bank. A big hand. I didn't see that coming. Presentation was so sweet. I thought we would go on for another just 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, it now gives me great pleasure, after that wonderful presentation from Ms. Meki, representing the World Bank, it now gives me great pleasure to call on Ms. Anna Carmen Muru, who is Global Strategic Advisor Partnerships and representing VVOB. Let's give her a big hand. Looking lovely. I did mention to her that if she finds her chain missing, she can just call me because I will have gotten it. Another big hand for Ms. Muru.
Thank you very much, Kunda, and thank you very much, everyone. It's an honor to be speaking today, especially after the great speakers we've had. And it's a great pleasure to speak to you, honorable ministers of education and dignitaries present and all the participants. So I'm here to talk briefly about what VVOB does and how we work. And the core of our work is actually working with teacher professional development and school leadership. And in sub-Saharan Africa, we are present in 6 countries, and we might be extending our work to 2 more. So as Dr. Piper mentioned, we do know what works in teacher professional development. And I'd like to outline some key things that we need to think about when we're designing teacher professional development programs for teachers. First of all, we need to recognize that our teachers really lack the competencies to be able to provide foundational skills to children. That is just a fact. They come out of teacher training colleges with maybe a lot of content, subject knowledge, but then they don't know how to transfer this knowledge to the children. So they're basically ineffective. So when we're looking at bringing innovations to teachers, be it structured pedagogy, be it teaching at the right level, we need to design programs where they're offered the opportunity to really practice these. So when we invest in teacher professional development, let us not be too quick to, give them the theory and then make them go out into the field. It doesn't work. They need a lot of time to practice. And they also need to be supported with teaching and learning materials, which are not necessarily very complicated materials, but that are materials that will help them in the classroom. And I think the catch-up program is very good at that, because we can see that these materials are actually very low cost, but they're very effective, and they allow the teachers to be supported in giving this information and knowledge to the children. In addition to that, we need to invest in systems that support teachers. Teachers need to be supported as close to where they are. So we need to invest in supported monitoring. So the issue of inspection should be something that we should be doing away with. Teachers need to be supported in what they're doing. They need to be mentored. So even having a mentor as close as possible to where they are, so a school mentor, is very important for their well-being, for their confidence, but also for their support in how they're teaching on a day-to-day basis. We also need to ensure that the teachers can rely on some kind of data. And we have seen the power of the dashboard that has been developed by our partner, TAL Africa, together with the Ministry of Education, which offers the teachers the opportunity of seeing where they're going wrong, what needs to be done, and allows them to really get a sense of what is going on in the classroom and what kind of interventions they can make themselves as teachers, what kind of interventions can be made by the school leaders, and what kind of measures can be taken for them to be supported by the district, by the zone, and by all the structures. So we need to keep all these things in mind. Data is very, very key, and we need to ensure that teachers have that data for their own use. So high-level data is useful for the policy level, but low-level data is what the teachers and the schools need to make their teaching effective. And here I've spoken also about another thing, the importance of school leadership. School leadership is something that we don't hear too much about. The quality of school leaders can make or break our teachers. So the school leader is the first inspector of the school, and I would say the first mentor, the first monitor of the school. And these teachers need to be, these school leaders, sorry, need to be supported to become leaders of learning. Now, most of our education systems focus on having school leaders who are actually just managers. So we need to improve how we train our school leaders so that they can support their teachers to do a good job in the classroom. Because of this, VVOB, together with our partners, ADEA, thank you, ADEA, and as well as Education Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as other governments, are investing in the African Center for School Leadership, which is meant to support African governments to train their school leaders in a way that they can become leaders of learning. So we hope to see school leadership take center stage in addition to supporting teachers in the classroom. But how do we support our school leaders to be leaders of learning and to support the teachers? And I wanted to also touch base on a very important thing that we as a VVOB value and that we see is very important, and other speakers have alluded to that as well. That is the ownership of government, the leadership of government. Leadership of government is something that we need at all levels. And for any program to succeed, for any intervention to succeed, be it teacher professional development, be it school leadership at scale, we really need to see and we really value the role of the government. The government needs to be part of the co-designing process. And as an organization, we value that a lot. We co-create our programs with the government, and they need to be designed with scale in mind at the outset, and with the idea that these will be embedded within the government system from the outset. And we have seen that that works very efficiently. And another thing I would like to mention in terms of how we work and what we have seen works is when we're looking at sustainability and scale, let us not think about, a 3-year process. Let us not think about, an iteration of maybe 5 years. Scale and sustainability requires time, and we do need to give it time. Embedding programs in the system requires time. And that's why it's important to have whatever program looking at a scale from a longer term perspective. It's not something that we can achieve over a small cycle. So what we do as VVOB, we invest in countries for the longer term, and we look at cycles that go beyond the 5-year term, because it does require time. And that's where the leadership of the government comes in, because we have seen that many countries tend to have a lot of pilots. They tend to have a lot of programs running, and without embedding being considered. And so those actually remain pilots. But if we invest in embedding, if we invest in the longer term, then things will become entrenched, and we will have ownership and scale and sustainability. And I think Zambia is doing great in that sense with the catch-up program. And we have seen that it started in 2016 with a small pilot of 80 schools, and now it's basically being rolled out to most of the country. So that's how we see it as well. And I think one thing that we value a lot, and I think that's was also seen very well in the Permanent Secretary's speech, is the partnership. So all this that we do, we don't do this by ourselves. We recognize that we have to work with our partners. They're the ones who support us in terms of evidence generation. They have supported us in terms of also bringing in new innovations, and we have just contributed to this. So I think the value of partnerships is something that we really need to work on. And as partners, we need to really support the ministries together, so that we don't come with different interventions, different approaches, different things, but that we all rally behind and all support the governments to really take up what they think is a priority. So government agency really needs to come at play. So I think I'll end there, and thank you very much for the opportunity again. Kunda, over to you. Thank you.
Ladies, you must realize I'm wearing a mishasha. To run in this dress is a lot of... Another quick, to the point presentation. Thank you very much. Let's just give her a big hand. And these, Your Excellency, and I know when I'm saying Your Excellency, you're looking behind, it's you, sir, since you're representing His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia. You may wish to know that these are our very, very dear partners who have been with us and, just helping Zambia and other African countries and other countries that need a hand in as far as education is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, that wonderful presentation brings us to that was just the second last before we get responses from you, the ministers that are in our midst. But just now, if you can, let's put our hands together for the next speaker, who is... So I'm going to take a deep breath to say this wonderful name, Mr. Rudra Narayan. Is that all right? Yes. Okay. I have been memorizing this name, and Mr. Rudra Narayan Sahu is, Sahu, okay, is Regional Education Specialist, Quality Learning, UNICEF, East and Southern Africa. Yet another great partner in this dispensation. Let's just give him a big hand.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor. Your Excellencies, the learning crisis is real, and more importantly, it's coupled with huge variations across the countries. And more importantly, the particular children who are coming from the most marginalized group, for instance, children with disabilities are 43% less likely to achieve the foundational literacy and numeracy skills. And similarly, children who are coming from the poorest household, they are lagging behind 18% point as compared to their wealthiest peers. Okay. When we listen to the presentation in the morning particularly from the Zambia stories, this is not rocket science. That means how we can make the basics right when we are considering education. Why I'm saying this, when let us simulate the data, some of the countries will require at least 20 to 25 years to ensure foundational learning for all children, foundational literacy for all children. And when it is coming to the foundational numeracy, some countries may need nearly 65 to 70 years to ensure foundational numeracy for all children. And we cannot wait. And we know what is working. Okay. And we are very optimistic about this. And already so many of my previous speakers mentioned about that. And I'm going to share this, why I'm optimistic, and there are 6 optimistic, let's say, drivers. I'm going to share that with you. Number 1, already being mentioned about what is working, and we need to go for the scales, sustainability with speed. But I want to add 3 components within this. 1, we need to ensure the localization. Second, we need to mainstream this into the existing education system. So, and we need to integrate, let's say, the teaching at right level, structural pedagogy, all let's say the assessment for learning. We know all these are working, how can we quickly localize or adapt or mainstreaming and integrate within the national education system? This is one. And the second one, I'm iterating around the advocacy. We need to intensify the advocacy effort, particularly to the political commitment that we can see. Let's say the right, left, and center. We can see there are huge political commitment now on FLN, right from the global level to the district level even. But what are the component we need to now? Let's say transform the political commitment to the public demand for the foundational learning. We have substantially achieved, particularly on the access to education, that the demand for the access to education, but now it is the turn to demand for learning. And the third thing I want to reiterate, particularly on the sharing of the knowledge and know-hows. In Zambia, my colleague mentioned that nearly this year 22 countries visited Zambia, and at the same time, February there are countries, let's say Uganda, Eritrea, Somalia, Angola, they visited Zambia, and now they went back and experimenting and taking the teaching at right level to scales. This is very heartening to see. And also at the same time, the magnitude of the learning crisis we cannot attend only through the schools. That means we need to look at the alternative pathways, how we can expand to both children in school as well as out of school. We can leverage from the technologies, particularly the low-cost technology to address the foundational learning. And the next thing is about the data. Already it is being spoken. Then when we're talking about the data, it's really heart of the program, but at the same time, we need to ensure the quality of the data and the capacity at the systemic level to the use of the data, and how we can, let's say, make the data fit for use. So these are the things also we need to look at. And last but not the least, is most important, is about the curriculum and the assessment reforms. So how we can, let's say, that being synergies across the pedagogies, assessment, and curriculum. We know most of the countries are still following the 1980s curriculum, and particularly on the content based. How we can make, let's say, transact curriculum from the content to competencies and ensure the skills already been addressed. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Another big hand for Mr. Sahu. A big hand. Dr. Piper, you see what you've done. Supersonic speed. Thank you so much for those very important remarks that you've made, and also just that through that presentation, enhancing what we are doing as Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we go straight into a quick discussion, which is going to be led by the one, the only. Yes. Let me start again. It gives me great pleasure to call upon the one, the only ADEA Executive Secretary, and he is Albert Nsenguyumva, and he is going to be leading this next session, where we have 3 ministers just deliberating and also responding to the presentations that have been made. I'm very excited about this session. Let's just give Albert a big hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure you realized something interesting this morning. Did you count the number of men that have been speaking today compared to women? Did you see that difference? Maybe this is the foundation we've been missing, Very impressive. So, women in this room, you see the changes we've been looking for is happening here. And thank you for taking leadership. And this is a man speaking. Thank you. Thank you. So let me take this opportunity to, again, express our gratitude to the government of Zambia, through the Minister of Education, for having accepted to host this important convening. I'm really impressed by the ongoing interventions from the starting points, the presentation by the peers from the Minister of Education on what's going on here in Zambia, the partners, the tones that we had from different partners here. So it is important now to take a few ministers present here to give us their thoughts, their responses from what they are hearing from here. And I have 3 ministers that I would like to actually announce here. So we start with the Minister of Gambia, Minister Claudiana. Thank you so much for attending this. And then I will proceed with the Minister, Angie, thank you so much for being here, South Africa. And last but not least, again, a man like me, the Minister of State from Angola, Minister Patrello. So thank you so much. Just a few minutes. I will start with Minister Claudiana. You can get a microphone so that you don't have to move away from your seat. Give us your responses, what you've been hearing here this morning from partners. What is your take around the issue of moving things at scale so that we don't just enjoy pilots as we usually do? We move it to scale. The issues we've been talking about, construction, we know we need it. We need classrooms. We need more teachers. We need to make sure technology works for learners. We need to make sure that we make a systemic approach, measuring learning. So what is your take on this, Honorable Minister? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Albert, for inviting me and making it possible for me to be part of this very, very, very important high-level discussion. Yes, as has been said this morning, the journey started since last year, 2022, with the TESS, the Transforming Education Summit. And it went in Paris, and then it went on to New York, where we made commitments. Our heads of state were there with us, and they made commitments. And then we went on to Mauritius, where we continued to discuss the issue, foundational learning, learning crisis, and all those words that we use to make us realize that the time has come, and it is important that we stop discussing, planning, thinking about strategies, etc., etc., and that it is time to set to work, time for action. And here we are again today to look at the same issue, foundational learning, bearing in mind that just about 2 weeks ago, we had a virtual meeting by the AU, and I think many of us here were on that meeting. And it was declared that 2024 should be the year for education. And I said at that meeting, 2024 should be time for action. Let's complete all the planning, all the discussion, 2023. And in 2024, we set the ball in motion. Foundational learning. And that is for quality education. There is no way we can achieve or attain quality education if we don't pay much attention, great focus on foundational learning. And when we talk about foundational learning, it starts with early childhood development. But it doesn't end there. It goes on to the first 3 years of education. I have been a living witness to this, that foundational learning, ECD, first 3 years of education are very important if you want to attain quality education. There is no way you can attain quality education if you don't talk about foundational learning, and if that level is not strengthened. And as we heard this morning from the different speakers, what are the ingredients that we need for this? We need the highest political will and support. We also need the policy pronouncement. We saw from the presentation, or we had from the presentation of the Permanent Secretary of Education for Zambia this morning, that there was a declaration made in 2013 to focus on learning, and that is catching up. Those who have been left behind need to catch up. Otherwise, they'll be left behind forever. If we don't develop strategies and programs for them to catch up, they will be left behind forever. And that is not good for us. It's not good for our countries. It's not good for our development. It's not good for the world. We also need the right type of leadership, as was said by someone. And this has to be at all levels, from the head of state to the minister, to the permanent secretary, to the directors, to the head teachers, to the teachers, even at the school level, the right type of leadership. The right type of leadership is very important. And this has to be at all levels. If any one level does not demonstrate that, then we are bound to fail. We also need the right facilities. And when we talk about the right facilities, we mean the classroom. Just as been mentioned, we need the space, the right space. When we started talking about early childhood development, which is part of foundational learning, so me is back in the Gambia, and we said attach ECD classes to all public schools, because the public schools were not so much into ECD. It was provided by private people. But then when we came to realize that it was important for quality education, we said attach ECD classes to all government primary schools. But it's like our school heads did not understand. And perhaps even the educational officers did not understand. And most of the time, these little ones were left out in the open. And it was just about play, play, play. And there was no right person to be able to take them through learning. It was, if the headmaster is free, he goes to attend to them a few minutes. If a teacher was free, the teacher goes to attend to the children, those little ones, for a few minutes. If there were no teachers, perhaps the senior students in the school would go in there and just occupy their time for a while. But that's not enough. We need the classrooms. And we have said in the Gambia that these little ones must not be left out in the open. They must be given classrooms. And they must be treated with all seriousness. We need the competent facilitators. That time, at that grade, that level, we need facilitators to help the children to learn, not to teach, but to help them to learn. And so we need qualified teachers with the right competences. And so we need continuous professional development. We need the relevant resources, the equipment, the resources. At that level, the children play through learning. They learn through play. We need the right support for the teachers, the mentors in the schools. The experienced teachers should be able to mentor those teachers at that level. We also need continuous assessment. And when we talk about continuous assessment, is evaluating what the children are achieving at that level. And yesterday I listened to you, Ms. Albert. I watched the TV and I heard you talk about diagnostic learning, not summative anymore. As the children learn every day, you must be able to measure what they learn. And so you are able to correct what they are not getting at every stage, not to leave that over a period. And we need that for the learning achievement targets, like I said, what they learn at every level, at every stage. We need the indicators as well, from the ECD to the first grade. Are these children ready for grade 1? Are they ready for the first grade in their primary school, or the primary school level? Now, we need all this. And I believe that is the way we will have to go. We need more than anything else, investments, the right investments in education, additional investment, additional funding for education. And somebody talked about the president being the lead, the minister and the minister for education and the finance minister being the president's assistants, and so on and so forth. And I want to say, honestly, in my country, my president is taking the lead. And I am the best friend of my minister of finance. He's my best friend. And everybody in cabinet knows he's my friend. And they will say to me, my colleagues will say to me, your friend. I say, yes, he's my friend. And we are so friendly to the point that it's only I can sit in my office, pick up a phone and call him in his office and say, my honorable brother, can you help me? This is what I need. And what would he say to me? Just send me a letter. And it is done. I learned that from the Harvard ministerial training, where we were told that the finance minister should be your best friend. And since then, I have made him my best friend. And indeed, he's my best friend. Also, to end, we need support from our partners, most of whom are in this hall, in this room. We cannot do it alone. We need their support. We need our partners to work the work with us so that we can get to our destination of quality foundational learning for quality education by 2030. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Claudiana. So you can see the 3 minutes from Minister Claudiana. Thank you, Minister. Thank you for... So, Honorable Minister Andrew, you can come here. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Albert Akuns. I'm responding from different texts, what I brought, what I need to respond to. So my papers are all over. So I needed to stand so that I can manage them. But let me acknowledge my colleague, the Minister of Zambia, all other ministers present from different parts of the country and deputy ministers, the ADEA leadership, the sponsors that are here. And ladies and gentlemen, let me start off really by thanking ADEA most sincerely for contributing to building this kind of compact required for developing Africa that we want and fostering the much needed collaboration among African countries, Chair. And I just want to quickly run through where we are as South Africa respond to some of the points that I hear, because some of the points where we are as a country will be responding or just either elaborating on the points that have been made by our presenters. Albert will know that before 2009, when I was appointed minister, I was a minister of education in the province. So it's almost 20 years in the space. And we've gone through a number of issues about foundations for learning. We even had a campaign on foundations for learning. We had scripted lessons from your Moltino, your Reed, and I think I can elaborate, and they worked very well. But there were challenges about scaling, because we had people from outside coming to support you from inside, not necessarily changing the system entirely because it came as an external force. When I became minister in 2009, we decided, because we had picked up what the problems were resources, most of the things that have been raised were your resources, your teacher training, your pedagogy. Then in 2009, we had what we call a teacher summit, where we agreed with teachers to say there are problems here. What is it that we do? And it was a summit co-hosted by ourselves in higher education. We came out with a compact on teacher development, teacher training, supporting our subject advisors, but also most important with what we really called Okay. Most importantly, we came with an agreed compact on teacher development that we had as a collaboration with our educators. But I can say, without going towards, I think there are other opportunities to expand on what we're doing, to say, where are we now? And having had the opportunity to have that long overview to say what has worked, what we need to do, which has been an advantage of I think, having served as a minister for more than 15 years now and having been a provincial MEC for another 5 years, so it's 20. So for me, it gives me an opportunity to reflect and say what has worked and what are the challenges moving forward, and that's where we are now as a sector. We've participated in PILS, which has been a very helpful exercise, but a very stressful exercise. When the PILS results come, everybody screams to say, Minister must go. We've kept her for so long, but you're not seeing results. But one of the things we picked up, as my colleagues have said from Zambia, without proper foundations for learning, we're dead in the water. Because we go and say kids must read by the age of 10, because we're basing it on the systems, your Western systems, where children have been exposed to early learning at least for 3 years. So we're saying our kids have to run equal race in 3 years, because by 10, they've only been at school for 3 years. These have been informal systems for 3 years. So they have to run a race with people who are 3 years ahead of them. On the other, so it just won't work. And I said to the president, we can go and contest in any, as long as we don't sort out our foundations for learning, our children will not succeed. And not only do they come disadvantaged, we see from the system, first year is when they're we're starting school readiness in year 1 of teaching. We teach them how to hold pens, your motor skills, your nutrition. So it's year 1 when they're supposed to be learning, and we're shocked when they can't read, when they have not had an opportunity to be exposed to the things that we expect them to do. So we'll hammer them to bring programs in them. We've not dealt with the basic things. Their school readiness, your motor skills, emotional skills, all the skills that come with school readiness. We've run a study in the country which tells us that less than half of our kids are able to access early childhood development program. And of those that have access, only 35% of them are school ready. And you can trace that even from our outputs, that 35%, only 35% of our children will succeed through their schooling without major interventions. Those that succeed, it's because we would have hammered, brought all programs on them, but we have not. And I always say to colleagues, you can't build a 4-room foundation house and expect a mansion. It won't work. Let's sort out our foundations for learning. The other thing we've also picked up, it's also a language issue, because we bring into our pedagogy a theory of deficit, that our kids start from scratch. Some of these programs assume that these kids come as a blank sheet, whereas they come with such a wealth. Most of African kids come with a multilingual advantage, which most children don't. They're monolinguals. And languages reinforce each other. But when they come, there's an assumption that they start from scratch. Even the books we give them are 1-line books, 2-paragraph books. You go and look at PILS. Our kids will never cope with the text. It's long, it's thick, it's big. They've not read enough text by the time they're 10. So those are some of the things that we're saying, that we have to strengthen our foundations for learning. As I said, Albert, I'm working from different scripts because the brief was that I have to respond. Let me quickly respond to the things that I hear. So I'm saying the myth of children reading by the age of 10, unless we have strong foundations for learning, is just unfair to expect on African kids. We can bring programs, it's unsustainable. And you can see even from the outcomes, we have to sort out our foundations for learning. We have to build also on the wealth that we have, that we don't come from monolingual environments, we come from multilingual environments. The text that we bring through, not a version text from elsewhere, and that's what we've been also doing as Hadri. We version the text, we translate the things, lose meaning in the problem. And that's why I'm very excited about this collaboration, to say, what is it that we do that is us from where we are? Because some of the assumptions are wrong. assumptions are of language teaching. We have to teach phonetics. Our languages are not phonetic languages. In English, to teach a kid cat, they have to know S, they have to know it's cat, sometimes it's dogs. That S becomes a Z. So phonics are very important in other languages. Our languages are morphological languages. So even the pedagogy, and that's why this collaboration will work, to say what is it that is African in terms, not in terms of our current continent, in terms of our languages, that will really enable us to go somewhere. As I say, structured lessons have worked in our country. We didn't find them scalable because of costs and maybe the approach we have, but there's no denial that they are very helpful. And what I think will work, what my colleagues have said about when you introduce a policy, I found that introducing a policy legally, so that it's not the Minister of Finance, but the Minister of Justice helps, so that some of the changes are legal. We have passed a bill where grade R is legal, so that every parent knows that they have to send a child to school by the age of 5. And we did it that way because we don't have resources to make ECD legal, because we'll not be able to do it. We're at a stage now where we have, as a Department of Education, received ECD from social development as our responsibility. I'm at a stage where we're going to say anybody who runs an ECD program has to register. And to register, so without necessarily having to fund you. This is the curriculum you're going to follow. This is a program you're going to follow. This is the environment you're going to follow, because it's necessary. But if you leave it to the way we have done it in the past, to say people can set up ECD programs on their own, they've been doing their own things, and it has not aided us a lot. So it's to institutionalize some of the changes that we require. And I found it helpful. And I know Program Director, we have other opportunities to speak. The other one that I really want is to really say, as we move forward, we will avoid this deficit theory. And we have an advantage in the country because we are 2 countries by 1. And I always ask people, say, why is this book used in African schools? Why is it not used in white schools? It's an English book. Why are we using this methodology? So that's a deficit thing, which says because they come from poor backgrounds, they are poor, without actually harvesting that which they bring in school. And I'm saying the greatest wealth for poor communities is this multilingualism. Languages reinforce each other, we don't use them. Sometimes poverty helps kids also in terms of social skills. They come to school responsible, they've been carrying wood, they've been doing, so we also don't capitalize on the assets that they bring to school and build on them. So we assume that because they are poor, everything about them is poor. But we also work from an environment where we say the priority is the classroom, which we know we will not be able to build by time. Whereas for me, the priority is that they must have a chair to sit, whether it's under a tree. They must have access to water. They must have safe sanitation, and we take it from the start. We don't count on things that we know we will not have by the time our kids finish schooling. As I said, to also come with that deficit theory. When we want lessons, we want to go and buy them without capitalizing on the skills in communities or crafting skills or your motor skills. We want to go and buy toys, Legos, which we can't afford. Therefore, we can't do those motor skills because we're not using what we have in the environment. And so that's why, Chair, I just am really looking forward to collaboration. Last week, I was in Mauritius to go and look at their ECD program to say, because they have a very successful system, what is it that in South Africa we can learn from a country which is equally struggling like us? Perhaps they're better off than us, but it's a country where there are lots of common characteristics which can enrich us, because I've found, as I say, I've been in this for 20 years, I've found sometimes the local indigenous lessons much more helpful. And because of desperation, we version, we translate, we import, and some of these skills are not scalable. The pedagogies are not relevant. The content is also working from a wrong foundation. And those are the things you have to interrogate as Africans to say, is this methodology in line with what and who we are? So Chair, let me not take too much of your time, but thank the opportunity of sharing. And even the assessments, The last one I want to speak about assessments. We, for instance, in South Africa, we're using foreign assessments. Your AGRA, your what, then they count the speeding rate of our children. In my language, to say I love you is one word. In English, it's 3 words. So we're testing the speed based on instruments which don't speak to this language. And as an African child, I always tell people, it took me at the university to go to a language lab to understand English spoken by a white person. I couldn't understand it. I could only understand English spoken by an African because the rate, the pace spoke to me. I couldn't understand English spoken by a white person because they speak fast for me and for my ear. And just to lastly emphasize the importance of foundations for learning, I always make this joke. You know my husband, Albert, I think you've met him. He's a professor at different universities in the country. So I will be proud as a mother to say, I have an educated father for my children. And they will say, Mommy, but you say Daddy is professor, but his English is suspect. And I say, why do you say it's suspect? They say, instead of calling R, he says L, because there's no R in his home language. He says 11 instead of 11. And why can't he speak English properly when he's a professor? And I said to them, it's foundations for learning, my kids. If you've not gotten other things before the age of 12, you can't sort it out. You will call A and A because you've not had it earlier in your life and you will not get it right. So for me, to get it right, it lies in the foundations for learning children.
Wow. Wow. Giving the floor to passionate people is always very difficult. So thank you, Minister Andrew, for this. Let's take the last but not least, the Minister of State for Angola, Minister Francesco. Can you take the floor, please? Thank you.
Muito obrigado. Vou falar em português. Para dizer que, em função de tudo aquilo que nós ouvimos, em função das apresentações aqui feitas, a questão do desafio das aprendizagens é algo que preocupa a sociedade angolana, preocupa o Ministério da Educação, de uma maneira geral, e nós nos perguntamos todos os dias do porquê que as nossas crianças não aprendem. Por que não aprendem? O problema está em nós, como professores, o problema está em nós, como alunos, o problema está em quê? Na falta de condições ou qualquer outra coisa? A verdade é que é algo que nos preocupa e que temos que estar a trabalhar tanto no nosso dia a dia. A grande verdade é que daquilo que nós notamos a nível do país, é que há aquela tendência do ensino superior culpar o ensino secundário, de que as crianças vêm mal preparadas no ensino secundário. O ensino secundário, por sua vez, também culpabiliza o ensino primário. O ensino primário também não quer ficar por trás, também culpabiliza o ensino pré-escolar. O ensino pré-escolar também diz que não, porque as crianças também já vêm com deficiência, portanto, quando nascem. Quer dizer que ninguém quer a responsabilidade e queremos ficar nesta culpabilidade. Então, temos vindo a trabalhar, portanto, na consciencialização dos nossos professores, porque o que nós notamos é que grande parte dos nossos camaradas, nossos professores, tem tendência sempre, em primeiro lugar, precisar a nível mensal, ou seja, mensalmente, olhar-se pelo menos em cada 25 do mês, o salário caiu ou não. Mas se preocupa se 25 de cada mês as crianças estão aprendendo ou não. Então, temos vindo praticamente a insistir nesta questão e, graças a Deus, que estamos a mudar, a notar uma certa mudança na forma de como é que nós temos que atuar. Porque a grande preocupação, também tal como foi colocado aqui, tem a ver com os nossos gestores escolares. Todo gestor que não se preocupa com a questão das aprendizagens a nível da sua escola esse gestor não é, digamos, digno de realce. Nós temos estado a dizer que um gestor escolar deve comportar-se como um treinador de equipa. Portanto, numa equipa de futebol, um treinador conhece melhor os seus jogadores, sabe como posicioná-los para se poder obter resultados que se pretendem na questão das aprendizagens. Então, é praticamente esse trabalho que temos vindo a fazer. Também estamos a lutar para transformar as nossas escolas em escolas eficazes. Escolas eficazes são aquelas escolas em que os alunos aprendem, são aquelas escolas em que os pais encarregados de educação preocupam-se em matricular os seus filhos porque sabem que ali, nessa escola, as crianças aprendem. Então, estamos a fazer o possível para que, de facto, possa haver este comprometimento, quer por parte dos professores, como por parte dos gestores escolares. O grande desafio que nós lançamos para este ano letivo é de que as crianças, no primeiro ciclo do ensino primário, portanto, tenham este ciclo a aprender a ler e a escrever e a fazer cálculos. Portanto, esse é um dos maiores desafios que nós lançamos. E, a parte disso, nós estamos a trabalhar com determinadas metodologias para ver se conseguimos mudar este quadro. A exemplo disso, nós também vimos a província, aqui em Zâmbia, estivemos, portanto, no mês de março, para que nós pudéssemos também ganhar a experiência em relação à metodologia da cachapa, né? Então, cá estivemos também porque, independentemente de que nós apostamos com a primeira e a segunda classe, nós ainda temos alguma deficiência de alguns alunos que estão até a quinta classe que têm dificuldades, portanto, na questão das aprendizagens. Então, este é um dos métodos, uma das metodologias que nos vai ajudar bastante em recuperar as aprendizagens, tanto daquelas crianças que se encontram numa determinada classe do ensino primário e que ainda não têm, digamos, as habilidades necessárias para poder enfrentar esta classe. A grande verdade também é que este problema tem a ver com as dificuldades que nós temos a nível das nossas escolas do ensino primário. Devem saber que Angola é o segundo país cuja taxa de natalidade é muito elevada, atrás do Níger. E isto faz com que as nossas turmas tenham excesso de alunos. E quando você tem excesso de alunos em salas de aulas, isso é a mesma coisa a dizer, o aluno está na sala de aula, mas está fora do sistema porque não aprende. Há dificuldades, portanto, do professor movimentar-se em salas de aulas para que possa prestar maior atenção naquelas crianças que têm dificuldades de aprendizagens. A exemplo, o caso da classe, o caso do pré-escolar também, nós não falamos primeiro do ensino primário sem antes olharmos para a questão do pré-escolar. O número de creches que nós temos ainda é irrisório a nível do país, e o que significa dizer que o número de crianças que são absorvidas nesse subsistema ainda é muito reduzido, mas que nós estamos preocupados com a questão daquelas crianças que não frequentam as creches, que também têm a idade, portanto, para estarem na creche, mas que não a têm. E então temos vindo a trabalhar, portanto, num projeto denominado TUP, um programa denominado TUP, todos unidos pela primeira infância, para que possamos assim olhar para essas crianças que não têm acesso à escola, mas que, empoderando, portanto, as famílias, os pais encarregados de educação, esses sim servirão praticamente de elo de ligação para aquilo que se pretende alcançar. E essas crianças, portanto, numa faixa etária dos 0 aos 6 anos, estejam em condições depois de poderem frequentar o ensino primário. E nesta questão, portanto, temos vindo a obter alguns resultados, mas ainda assim nós precisamos que a construção de escolas seja diretamente proporcional ao crescimento da população. E face, portanto, a estas questões todas que nós ouvimos, nós estamos dispostos a implementar, ganharemos também experiências à medida em que nos forem, portanto, apresentada, portanto, aquilo que é a experiência também de outros países. Aqui mesmo também a destacar, o ano passado, depois da Trienal das Notícias, nós ainda tivemos o cuidado de visitar a Gâmbia e tivemos, portanto, uma boa impressão de, graças a Deus, a senhora ministra da Educação da Gâmbia apoiou-nos bastante para que nós fôssemos às escolas constatar como era feita a gestão e então isto valeu-nos bastante. E graças a essa experiência que nós também começamos a implementar aquilo de positivo que nós constatamos neste país. Muito obrigado, senhora ministra. Também, face a tudo que eu disse, portanto, a nossa surpresa tanto veio também do senhor presidente da República. A semana passada, portanto, anunciou de que 2024 será o ano da transformação da educação. O que significa dizer que muita coisa será feita fundamentalmente na questão da transformação da educação, apostando na construção de infraestruturas, apostando na absorção de mais professores comprometidos com o processo. Nós não queremos apenas aqueles que vêm para resolver o problema do emprego, não o problema da educação. O problema da educação tem a ver com a questão das aprendizagens. Muito obrigado por tudo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Francisco from the Republic of Angola. We will be hearing from representative from Francophone countries later in the day, especially the Minister of Ivory Coast will be joining remotely. Thank you. Thank you to the three ministers. Thank you for sharing your experience and perspective. I'm going to pass the floor back to Kunda. Kunda, thank you for giving the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Another big hand for Albert, actually a former Minister of Education himself. So Honorable Albert, we can do better than that. A big hand. Thank you so much, sir. So we're going to do two things. Number one, I'll ask that everybody be upstanding. Please be upstanding. In fact, three. Number two, I'm going to I will kindly request His Excellency the President, who is today represented by the Minister of Education, to please come up to the, what do you call this, stage? Yes, to the high stage. And you will be accompanied by the Malawian Minister and also Honorable Albert. Please come to the front. And as they're doing that, I will ask our partners in education, Your Excellency, the Republican President, to be accompanied. Yes, this is now the beginning of the official opening. Don't worry, Honorable Minister. Don't worry, Your Excellency. Please come to the front. Yes, please. Thank you. Problem with humble people, they're all giving gestures. No, you go first. No, you go first. You go first. Thank you so much. And then while we are standing, because you are all over 5 years old, I will ask that you stretch a little bit so that you don't fall asleep on His Excellency, the President, as he speaks. Are you stretched? Fantastic. Kindly take your seats. We are now going to transition into the official opening of this very, very important historic meeting. And to help us transition, we have the children. Actually, the minister who's representing the president was reminding me, says, Kunda, we're talking about all these children. Where are they? Sometimes we can have all this talk and forget about the actual children that we are representing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, let's put our hands together for Rosa Mystica as they give us a beautiful poem. A big thanks. Rosa Mystica is actually a community school, and socks are the sponsors. Oh, where are you going? Behind me? Okay. Thanks to Zox, these children are clad in the Zox t-shirt. I don't know, I'm still waiting for mine. But as they begin, another big hand.
Sit back and listen to what I've prepared for you. It's titled Foundation of Education in Africa. My education. Reading in also notes. Teach me, teacher. And I will never be absent in your class. African teacher, African spokesman, African spokeswomen. Teach me my education. They key to freedom. They passport to success. They inheritance of no stress. The freedom of the kingdom. Foundation of education is the best property to have. It is the only insurance for the better future. Thank you, President, for giving us free education. What has taught me? Education is the best. Friends may betray you, but education will never betray you. Value is in your life. I sometimes read a book and learn a lot of lessons. Some small amount of pens I took. I learned to write. I learned to read. By help of the teachers at my school, I can read and write. If you are a pupil, wants to be in a gang and shoot up everything with a bang, your friends will say they have your back. But education is what to love. Education is the key to life. I'm not getting stabbed with a knife. Education will lead you to great heights. I know to everyday fights. My Africa, the land of great heroes, where Nobel Peace Prize winners were born, where fighting and murder is a sin, where all people wish one thing, where all people preach one thing, where all people practice one thing, where everyone wants peace, where everyone wants their children to go to school. Give us the voice of hope while we are still young. Foundational education will help you excel, not lead you into a count jail. You wouldn't find yourself being accused of murder in a court of order, or find yourself underground 6 feet deep. So instead of being where to rest, get an education and be the best. Education is life. Education is famous in the society. Education is the best form of prestige. A prestige that cannot be possibly taken away. The rich take from it and become wise. The poor take from it and become rich. All education, the mother of all professions. Let's get rid of our country, Zambia. All education, what a name you are. Education is the best leaders. Education is the best kind of prestige. And when the government cannot introduce free education to every child, we have poverty, development in the country. Solution to all these problems and help bring equality in development and education in the nation, and eliminating the financial barrier to education. Free education has enabled pupils like me from low-income families to receive the same level of education as my peers from more affluent families. These have helped to reduce social inequality and promote a more equal and just society. Free education is fundamental in guarantee to education. It was very sad seeing my parents failing to send me to school, leaving me on the age deprived to education. You are an equalizer, getting Barry all the way from Wangwa to the world. It's because of the books that Barry is known out there, and Zambia is on the map. Indeed, we ask for more books to make us tell the story and achieve the Zambian dream. Free education and the advantages. Low relationship among its pupils. Community development, equal access to education, improve standards of education, economic development in the country. Every African has a dream. The very dream to get out of the poverty line. Every dreamer has a dream. They dream to prosper in life, but many die too young with their dreams. It is Africa where talent abound. It is this place that we struggle to gain. But can we jump this fence from here? Yes, give me. You. Sing. Hey. Sing. I. O. N. Education is the way. Education is the way. Education is the way. Do you want to be a president? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a education is the way. Education.
Yo. A big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. I tell you, to memorize all that. I've been young before, and I remember my mom, yeah, believe it or not, I was young. And my mom would say, go and buy tomatoes, onions, and carrots. By the time I'm getting there, it's tomatoes, cabbages, and potatoes. Because to remember, I mean, it's such hard work. We were doing a poem and it was my turn. And I had the privilege of talking about education. So I said, education, as you can see, even from childhood, I was very energetic, very everything. So I said, education, education. You have killed my father. You have killed my mother. Then my friend taps me on the shoulder, says, your line was AIDS, not education. So it's just not easy. What these kids have done is commendable. We need to give them another big hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we've kept the Minister of Education, Zambia, who's representing the president for quite a bit. And thank you, sir. It just shows the importance that you've attached to education. Thank you for staying with us. Mostly guests of honor will do their speech or just come at the point of speech and leave. But thank you for staying with us. Let's just give him a big hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we straight go into the official program. I'll ask that you please be upstanding so that we can sing the national anthem. For those of you that haven't had the privilege of listening to the Zambian national anthem, I do pray you're close to a Zambian who knows the national anthem. We would, oh, yeah, really blessed. We have it recorded.
Free, let the wake and joy, unity. Victor's in the swallow for the rise. We want freedom's fight. Oh, strong and free. Africa is our own land. Watch the wind and blessed by God's name. Let us go happy for joy. Swell round the lands and the sun. Everyone strong and free. One land and one nation is our pride. Dignity and peace down the sky. Like the noble eagle in its flight. So, yeah, it's to be all one, strong and free. Praise be to God. Let's start when you say, yeah, Zambia, we never stand. I never fly. Oh, our land is down. Yeah, we see all one, strong and free.
Your Excellency, who is today represented by the Minister of Education, I must let you know that we prayed earlier on. We prayed for you, we prayed for the food, we prayed for the world. So everybody, you may be seated. Thank you so much. The guest of honor, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who is today represented by the Minister of Education, Honorable Douglas Munsaka Siakalima, who is also the Member of Parliament for Chirundu, the Executive Secretary, Association for the Development of Education in Africa, ADEA, Honorable, and I say honorable because, as I mentioned, he was a former Minister of Education, Albert Nsenguyumva. Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst, we also have the presence of 10 ministers and 2 deputy ministers. And I do have the pleasure of just announcing the countries that are here represented in our midst. I seek your indulgence. My technology is giving up on me. Oops. Okay, I think I'll say the ones that I remember. We do have in our midst, sir, Zambia, of course, and then Angola. We do have Namibia. We do have Lesotho. Okay, thankfully, yes. Sierra Leone, South Africa, the Gambia, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Uganda, Malawi, and the ones that I've read have been represented by the full ministers. And by full ministers, that is also including Cote d'Ivoire that has joined us virtually. The deputy ministers are representing Namibia and Ghana. We have representation that is coming from Senegal, Benin, Botswana, Kenya, Eswatini, Madagascar, Mauritius, DRC, and Tanzania. These countries have been represented by various high and senior government officials. Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst, we also have our partners, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Bank, OECD, UNESCO, which is covering UIS GEM report, GPE, UNICEF, MasterCard Foundation, VVOB, USAID, World Vision, Luminous Fund, TARL Africa, Better Purpose, Child Fund International, Beyond Ourselves, ASEC, and SEACMEC. We also have in our midst the directors that are coming from the various ministries, both Ministry of Education and other ministries that are here present. We have in our presence as well civil society. Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you so much for making your time. Thank you for making your presence be felt here today. Welcome to the Association for the Development of Education in Africa, ADEA High-Level Policy Dialogue Forum on Foundational Learning. Ladies and gentlemen, simply put, welcome. And I would like that at this point, just turn to your neighbor and welcome them, make them feel good. In fact, tell them that they look absolutely stunning. I notice when a man is seated next to another man, to say that they're looking absolutely stunning is crazy. But thank you so much for coming. And without further ado, I do have the pleasure of calling upon the man that has had his whole team travel from Cote d'Ivoire all the way to Zambia, and they've been up and about. In fact, when he just arrived, he's walking into the hotel room and he found a camera already waiting for him. We have abused him seriously by putting him on various media platforms just so that he can talk about ADEA. And we've had a lot of Ministry of Education participants, and also our partners, VVOB and ZOCs, and so many others, featuring on radio stations, TV stations, just to sensitize people on the importance of this conference, but more importantly, on the importance of foundational learning. If you can, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Honorable Albert.
Thank you. Do I come or?
Yes, I would like you to come so that people see the difference in height.
Honorable Minister of Zambia, representing His Excellency the President of Zambia, Honorable Minister from Malawi, Madalito, thank you so much for being with us today and representing the steering committee of ADEA. Thank you for making your time. Honorable ministers here present, representative from different countries, partners. Happy to see a number of partners that have joined this important high-level policy dialogue forum. Mine is simple, is to first thank the government of Zambia, as I did before. Let me repeat it. Thank you so much for accepting to host us here. I know you are going through not an easy time, but thank you for making it. Thank you, dear honorable ministers. I know when I was hearing from the Gambia, South Africa, Angola, and other ministers that I had a chance to interact with before this day, you are going through a tough time. We all know that. But that's the reason why you're there. You are there because you are a leader. And a leader means, or leadership means, going away from your comfort zone. So when I've been hearing from you, I say, yeah, you're doing the right thing. This is your time. Let's make sure that we make the change that we want to see in our countries. And thank you for, despite all these challenges you're going through, thank you for making it, because we believe so much that one may probably go fast, but together we can go far. And that's what we're trying to achieve today. Thank you to numerous partners, more importantly, Benjamin and the Gate Foundation as a whole. We first met last year in Paris, I remember, Ben, when we were part of the Transforming Education Summit. We met as partners. No country was there. And I remember Ben asking me, what do you think about this meeting? I said, Ben, listen, we're talking to each other as partners. How can we test this as we move to countries? And this is what is happening, Ben. We are today with these countries. We are testing our theory. We are testing our models. And this is what is happening here. We are giving the opportunity for countries to learn, to share, to account, which I think is the purpose of this convening. Thank you again. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'm sure we will hear more from our ministers. Thank you again to Kunda for giving me this opportunity, and to all the team from ADEA to the Minister of Education in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The ADEA Executive Secretary, Mr. Albert Nsenginyumva. Another big hand, ladies and gentlemen. It now gives me great pleasure to call upon the Minister of Education, Malawi, and she is Honorable Madaliso. Again, it's a Zambian name. Malawi is just us, you know, Madaliso Kambawa, and she's also she's actually wearing two hats today. She's also coming in as the chairperson of the ADEA Steering Committee. Let's put our hands together for Honorable Kambawa. I think it would be nice for us to also see the outfit. I'm just telling Kunda that she's crazy. Despite the energy levels, she's crazy. This is not a fashion show, so no need to see outfits.
Okay. I'm being asked to use this mic. Kunda, I don't have your energy, but we appreciate you. But I'd hope that when we go back, all of us can infuse your kind of energy into the foundational learning. And just to say to our gentleman who was handing the mic that I think it would be remiss if I had to sit, because after I do my short remarks, I'm going to have to ask the president, who's the rep for the head of state, the minister of Zambia, to speak to us. So I would not have done that while I was sitting there. I think if I'm following protocol. Excellency, the head of state, the President Hakainde Chirema, who's being represented by the Honorable Minister, my brother, Honorable Minister Douglas Siakalima, fellow ministers and ministerial representatives in the education and training sector, distinguished officials and experts from member states here present, our esteemed supporting partners, we value you, members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. On behalf of the governing board of the Association of the Development of Education in Africa, ADEA, its membership and networks, I wish to thank you and the government and the people of Zambia for demonstrating leadership in accepting the request to host this high-level policy dialogue forum on foundational learning. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this forum is crafting a new Africa by rethinking foundational learning. The importance of foundational learning cannot be overly emphasized. A significant number of our learners are still not able to complete primary education, just like you heard from a lot of speakers that spoke before me. As we still work on pushing up the figures on completion, one thing we can do is to enhance the quality of the foundation such that learners are able to read, have the right numeracy skills, and critical attitudes that allow them to pursue productive lives and adapt to the ever-changing environment. To do this, we need to learn, share, and account, among others. Learning from what has been implemented since the commitments made by member states at the Transforming Education Summit and ADEA Triennial in 2022, sharing evidence on successful scalable programs is in foundational learning. Thirdly, we have a cardinal responsibility to be accountable to ourselves as leaders and professionals, to our respective countries, to our partners, and to each other as Africa. Wanting to ensure that Africa moves forward, but also moves forward in the right direction. This is why ADEA, as a Pan-African organization, and its partners consistently reminds us of our responsibility as countries and education actors. We're truly grateful, ADEA. As we seek concrete actions that improve foundational learning outcomes based on nationally owned goals, the forum will focus on sharing lessons learned about teacher recruitment, deployment, and retention through continuing professional development, as well as successful approaches to improve instructional quality and consistency. You have championed, Your Excellency, you have championed Zambia's vision on education. The country's successful catch-up program the ongoing teacher recruitments, and the countrywide school improvement initiative supported by the Constituency Development Fund under your government and supporting partners are testimonies of your leadership. ADEA and its partners see you as a champion of foundational learning on the continent. We see you taking forward the outcomes from this forum to the continental level as contribution to the 2024 Year of Education for Africa. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reminded of the need to be clear on few priorities to focus on to meaningfully move the foundational learning agenda forward with tangible results and impact. I would like to urge my fellow ministers, ministerial representatives, development partners, and education actors in Lusaka to feel encouraged to deliver by listening and learning from those who dared to do something, to implement some of the Transforming Education Summit and triennial commitments. Let us seize this opportunity to learn, share, and account. As the Africa Coalition of Ministers on Foundational Learning, we stand ready to accompany you, Your Excellency, as you carry forward the torch of foundational learning, to give hope to Africa, to the African child, and to contribute to meeting the commitments made at TESS and the 2022 triennial in line with the expectations of Africa's Agenda 2063 and the Global Sustainable Goal number 4 on education. I thank you all for your kind attention. May God bless us all and God bless Zambia. And at this juncture, I have the honor and the humble duty to ask you, representing Head of State of Zambia, Honorable Minister Douglas, to come and share your remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now you see, I was almost now reading my own name. Because then the president should have said, Honorable Douglas Musaga Siagalim. So, so, first of all, I bring apologies from the president. He should have been here, but at the same time, he's chairing a committee on Troika. He's the chairperson of that committee, which looks at politics and the Thank you. So he sends his apologies. He would have wanted to be here, especially that he puts great emphasis on education, which I'll be able to say after I've read his speech. So now let me behave presidential, and then I'll leave the presidency and talk about my ministry. Thank you. Honorable ministers present here, the Executive Secretary of the Association for the Development of Education in Africa, participating ministers of education from sister African countries, honorable members of parliament present, senior government officials from the Republic of Zambia, members of the diplomatic corps, development partner organizations, and the private sector representatives, educationists from all corners of our continent, members of the press, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with sincere gratitude and privilege that I welcome you to the official opening of the Association for the Development of Education in Africa Annual High-Level Policy Dialogue Forum on Foundational Learning in Africa. We are greatly honored that you have found our country worthy of hosting this annual event that interrogates the critical progress made in education, especially in terms of foundational learning. We extend a special welcome to all our delegates who have come from all parts of Africa. Over the years, Zambia has remained committed to the ideals of human capital development. The smooth leadership transitions we have experienced since our independence in 1964 is evidence of this. Our investment in education equally manifests in our commitment to the ideals of equal access to quality education. While our education sector has been faced with challenges, we are confident that our ongoing educational reforms will give us a stepping stone to a more positive education system, which will respond to the 21st century skills and aspirations needed to propel national wealth creation and respect for human dignity and values. This, to me, is the key benefit of a strong education and learning system. It is something we are proud of as Zambians, and I pledge to uphold and export these values alongside increasing investment in education. Indeed, education is a cornerstone of peaceful societies. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, this year's high-level policy dialogue forum, jointly convened by the Ministry of Education and the Association for the Development of Education in Africa, ADEA, is focused on foundational learning under the theme called Crafting a New Africa by Rethinking Foundational Learning, end quote. The forum underscores the belief that foundational learning is at the base of any effort to change the course of Africa's development. It is by building people that we derive the resources to craft a new vision and bring such vision to life. Africa needs economic growth and development to guarantee livelihood to its nearly 1.3 billion people, 60% of them under 25 years. Therefore, we must maximize our human resources by building and domesticating the skills we need to extract and add value to our natural resources. This will help to stem the tide of young Africans making treacherous journeys across the Sahara and the Red Sea into Europe in search of better livelihood outcomes. We will be able to mitigate against Africans involving themselves in inhuman activities due to poverty and hunger, and deal with the violent conflicts, especially fueled by resource contestation. This is the reality we must change, and Zambia aligns to the ideals of the Assembly and Association for the Development of Education in Africa's desire for a progressive future for our continent. Africa will be home to 1 billion children and adolescents under 18 years by 2050. A powerful resource for economic growth and progress for any continent that can build the skills of its population. The government of the Republic of Zambia fully subscribes to the principle of education being the greatest equalizer and recognizes the role it plays in human capital development while breaking the intergenerational poverty cycles and aiding social economic development. Sadly, our education system in its current form is striving to meeting these ambitions, even several challenges. At the basic education level, limited access to quality early childhood education and foundational learning have left out learners from disadvantaged and vulnerable households, including children with special educational needs and disabilities. A 2022 study by the National Bureau for Economic Research revealed that 94% of children in sub-Saharan Africa lack the basic skills needed to contribute to a modern economy. About 23% of girls in Africa and 19% of boys are still excluded from primary education. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, 2 years of COVID-19 related school closures further worsened learning outcomes, especially at the foundational learning. A study of 2022 led by the World Bank on the state of global learning poverty says that learning poverty, I hope you Zambians are going to hear me, because I've been misunderstood when I pronounce such words. Yes. And this is a World Bank study. And these are the things that we quote about. So when you talk about them, then you are misunderstood. So I'm quoting about the World Bank. A study of 2022 led by the World Bank on the state of global learning poverty says that learning poverty, the ability to read and to understand a simple story, is as high as 87% in Africa. Pre-COVID-19, that is to say. This figure has worsened to 89% following post-COVID-19 simulations. Worse for children from the poorest households, the girl child, children in rural areas, and those with disabilities. Shortage of qualified teachers is rife, especially in rural areas in Africa. The UNESCO Institute for Statistics say that 7 out of 10 countries in Africa face acute shortage of qualified teachers. The Born to Learn report by UNESCO's Global Education Monitoring Report and the Association for the Development of Education in Africa estimates that sub-Saharan African countries must recruit 2.3 million teachers, and that is replace a further 3.8 million to achieve the ambitions of the strategic objectives of the Continental Education Strategy for Africa 2016 to 2025 and the Sustainable Development Goal SDG number 4 on education. Addressing these challenges will require a holistic transformation of our learning system, firstly by improving foundational learning. Without foundational skills in numeracy and literacy, there can be no further learning of quality. Secondly, I am glad that there are bright spots that provide evidence of what works we have recorded towards achieving social justice. For instance, 1, our government has demonstrated that it works by our robust recruitment of 30,496 qualified teachers in 2022, and by the end of the 2023, additional 4,500 teachers will be recruited. Further, in 2024, the government has earmarked to recruit another 4,200 teachers and 1,209 teaching personnel. We must now consolidate and scale these gains through appropriate policies, coherent strategies, and well-resourced and implementable programs. 2, we are providing school grants to fund free education from early childhood education to secondary school level. As such, all school-related fees were abolished, and these grants now meet the funding needs of the expenses. This addresses the learning needs of pupils from disadvantaged and vulnerable households. The composition of education spending is now shifting towards transfers and subsidies to fund free education and creates room to spend on another education needs such as purchase of textbooks, construction of classrooms, and provision of desks. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, there are encouraging examples of how the Ministry of Education is playing a key role in the design and implementation of foundational learning. One such example is the remediation catch-up program in our country that has helped to revamp teacher professional development and strengthen the capacity of in-service teachers. We are excited that catch-up will soon be introduced at initial teacher training, meaning that our student teachers will enter the system the right skills to offer at foundational learning. At the Transforming Education Summit in September 2022, African governments pledged to accelerate improvement in foundational learning. The ministerial declaration at the ADEA 2022 triennial ensured that policymakers committed to improve accountability and capacity of foundational learning in Africa, demonstrated from the onset by the establishment of the Ministerial Coalition on Foundational Learning that will spearhead strengthening accountability structures among decision makers to track progress on agreed targets. This forum is another chance to take stock and recommit to realizing these improvements while sharing knowledge and learning from one another. Therefore, this event presents an opportunity to demonstrate accountability and showcase how we have fared in implementing these commitments since the 2022 triennial in Mauritius. distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank ADEA and partners for making accountability a key aspect of this event. It is no longer enough to make commitments. We must now deliver on the commitments and showcase how we delivered them. It is my belief that with the support of our partners, we will find multiple bright lines that will underscore the changes we know are happening across Africa. I pray that the knowledge and case studies we will share here will bear fruit when you go back home and will find new formulae to drive and strengthen your reforms at the end of this forum. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with these remarks, it is my pleasure on behalf of the good people and peaceful people of the Republic of Zambia to wish you fruitful deliberations. I now declare the ADEA Annual High-Level Policy Dialogue Forum on Foundational Learning in Africa officially opened. Thank you for your kind attention. As I promised you, that was the speech for the president. Let me now speak for my own. I now speak as a Minister of Education. Why foundational learning? Why early childhood education? The experiences that I have had as a lecturer in the University of Zambia, a long time ago, we used to be told, you are now graduating half-baked students. Then I said, where do they come from? Where do they come from? We are end users ourselves as university. There must be something wrong. One subsector is not working properly. I'm just 2 years in the Ministry of Education. It's a new government, of course. But now the president said there will be no two ministries of one basic education and what? You will be alone so that you check from early childhood up to when they go to university. So start checking. And we have put big emphasis ourselves. We said we only receive students from already baked people. So if you are not baked at early childhood, so why do you want me to bake them properly? So we go back to early childhood, and this is the emphasis. It is very important for us. Africa can only find solutions to their problems themselves. You will never find solutions anywhere. These cooperating partners are only partners. It is us who have to make those solutions. Where do we start from? Let us start from early childhood. J.B. Watson, a long time ago, he was a behaviorist. He said, give me a dozen children, and I'll make one a policeman, another one a thief, another one a what? Just like that. It was too much for him to say that. But he wanted to demonstrate how the formative ages of our children can reflect your own future. So this is not a joke. It is very important. We make a country out of how we make our children behave. So the startup program is the most important program. We can shape a child anyhow that you want to shape them. And this is why as a country ourselves, as education ourselves, courtesy of all my teachers, all my permanent secretaries, all my directors, we've agreed to say that this is the way we shall go. If we have to start, and I tell them, they are here. Where are my PSs? Yeah. Wonderful people. I've never had support like this anywhere I go for work. Look at yourself. The idea just came in, and I was hearing one submission of leadership. Leadership is very important. Anywhere you go. And I tell my colleagues to say that, yes, we are leaders. Because at some point there must be a means of education, there must be a PS, there must be what. But these positions in themselves do not mean anything. These are positions of order. That there must be order anywhere you go. And I usually remind ourselves to say that for me, even a person who sweeps for me is equally important. Because if they never sweep my office for 4 days, I'll catch a cold and now I want to be at work. So us as leaders, we must be able to respect others because human beings are not machines. They've got emotions, they've got feelings. It starts from there. So ourselves were happy to host this momentous occasion because it explains one thing about how do we shape a child. Where do we take a child? A child who is going to be an engineer must know for the first time, say that I'm now doing this at early childhood. So you impart knowledge at early childhood, then you have now shaped your own country. Am I talking to somebody today? Am I talking to someone? Yes. So for me as education minister here, you can see the president declared free education. And every penny that we save is going towards education. Can you ever imagine that ever since the president declared free education, there were 4 million children in school. Today there are 6 million. So where are the 2 million? Where were the 2 million? And I have told everybody to say that this policy now has just shown us that actually we are keeping children who are going to be vagabonds in the next 20 years. We are going to be grappling with the rate of crime. It's because you never took care of other children, because you had your own children in school. And then you never took care of those 2 million. Those 2 million children now that we have increased. In fact, in the next 10 years, because Zambia's population is closer to 20 million, in the next 7 or so years, we'll have 10 million children in school. Half of our country will be in school. Half. Can you ever imagine if that never happened? You are talking about another half being vagabonds, being criminals. So although the fiscal space is quite difficult, the president has said, I'd rather invest in the people that I see. Vice versa, you cannot invest in agriculture. Where are you going to get agronomists? You cannot invest in mining. Where are you going to get metallurgists? So all those come from the school system. But the school system must have foundational learning in order for you to shape the destinies of our countries. Africa, I invite you. Cooperating partners, I invite you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let's just give the President of the Republic of Zambia and the Minister of Education a big hand. He's quite smart, my minister, because I was thinking maybe what he's going to do is he's going to speak as the minister. Then he'll say, Mr. President, I now call upon you. Then he was going to come back and say, I am now the president. But he did it in a very smart way. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you could hear his heart. And that's the minister for you. Very passionate. It's very difficult to keep up with him. At times I want to surprise him by showing that I'm a hard worker by sending him a speech at 02. And just when I send it, he immediately sends back thanks. Like what? You know, and his team, PS Kamoko, PS Noriana, amazing people to be led by. And we really are inspired by your leadership. Thank you so much. So don't blame me for my energy. I get it somewhere. And I am greatly inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the end of the official part of this event. I think now we're getting into the debates, the deliberations, the arguments, just so that we can make a better Africa by improving and enhancing foundational learning. But before we finally end, and sir, before we finally release you, we will have a photo question. There are a lot of Africans who don't like taking pictures because they are about hard work. They're about hard work and just doing everything possible, but no evidence of your hard work and of your beauty and of your outfits. So, yes.
Entertaining to go into the video so that the ladies can also finish distributing the new cards.
Yeah. Okay. So we will have that picture so that we can, for example, I want to say to my friends when I get back to say, you know, today in the morning, I was quite busy. I was just hanging around with my friend, Honorable Madalitso from Malawi. And then obviously they will argue and then I'll just show the picture. You need evidence. You know, today I was just having breakfast with, you know, my colleagues from the Gambia and ta-da, picture. So you need pictures. We'll do this in groups. We will have the 10 ministers first, the deputy ministers. We will also have our partners. And speaking of partners, oh my goodness, I have the pleasure of just mentioning three more partners that I didn't mention when I did the list. And a partner that I really want you to celebrate with us today is Human Capital Africa, led by Dr. Obi. I want to be like you when I grow up. Yes. Prophesy. Thank you. She said you'll be better. So can you imagine a better Dr. Obi? You're all in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to acknowledge Roger Federer Foundation. I think we can do better than that. Roger Federer Foundation.
We have DBs that are host, so that they don't keep us.
Oh my goodness. I then also have the pleasure of announcing our hosts, the people that have made it possible for ADEA to actually have offices within Côte d'Ivoire. And Côte d'Ivoire, beautiful country, amazing food, and it's just full of love. Bonjour, merci, je t'aime, je t'aime. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Africa Development Bank. Honorable Minister, I am taking serious lessons in French, just so that I can just say sentences that make sense, unlike je t'aime le pantalon. No, I want proper sentences that I can express myself in French. Then, ladies and gentlemen, I think, and yes, the Africa Development Bank led by Madame Hedrina Doroba. Where is she? Yes. We love you so much. Thank you so much for hosting ADEA. And please invite us. I was going to say, please come, but invite us so that we come to Côte d'Ivoire and just have a beautiful moment that side. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I've mentioned all our partners because you mean a lot to us. Without you, there's no way we can succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that time is almost here, but now, just before we go, a video of 2 minutes. If you want, you can time it, 2 minutes, and we will see how this video plays out. Are my guests all right here, or they can watch from these monitors? Okay. Don't worry, sir. ADEA thought of, oh, you'd rather watch the big screen. I agree, sir. I'll ask the Honorable Minister, the President of the Republic of Zambia, to please come down so that they can watch from there. As they come down, let's encourage them. A big hand.
Early literacy and numeracy are the basis of every educational achievement. To develop a child's ability to read, solve arithmetic, and relate with others is crucial. By strengthening foundational learning, especially reading, we could help every African child to build the skills for tomorrow.
Reading is the basis of all academic success. But our children's ability to read and solve math problems is worryingly deteriorating.
Now, in particular, for Africa, we are in a learning crisis, and this is being seen in many ways, and especially with the impact of COVID-19. Especially for early learners, the level of reading is still very low. And there's so much that needs to be happening in order to make sure that we reposition foundational learning, and especially in Africa, in order to improve the quality of education as a whole. We have seen commitment and a great achievement happening, especially in foundational learning. We have seen examples in improving the reading culture. So there are a number of changes and improvement that we would like to see, especially in Africa's educational system.
94% of children in sub-Saharan Africa lack the necessary skills needed to contribute to a modern economy. 87% of children under 10 years are unable to read with meaning and solve simple math problems. But we can change that.
We want everyone, especially parents and teachers, to support efforts by government and all our partners to solve this problem by cultivating a reading culture among our children at home and in the classroom. Today, we are in a school here in Senegal reading with the children.
Est-ce que vous connaissez l'importance de la lecture? Hein? Vous savez que la lecture est la mère de toutes les connaissances.
You can do the same at home, especially during bedtime.
Parents and teachers, read to children and let them read back to you. Share beautiful stories of your day and you can read from their storybooks. That way, we can jointly assure the future of Africa's children.
Literacy contributes not only to better well-being and better economic conditions, but also to social, political, cultural, and environmental gains. This is what Africa needs now.
Together with stars such as yourselves, the parents and teachers, we ask you to join the Read with a Star campaign.
That's how nice it is. We're even waiting for the credits to run. Beautiful message. If we want our children to be part of an economic development that is meaningful, we have to start at a time when they're really young. Beautiful, beautiful video. Let's just give ADEA a big hand for that message. Wow. Amazing stuff. Was that Honorable Albert earlier on? Okay, so that, what's the name of the movie? So ADEA movie featuring Honorable Albert. And as you know, in Zambia, we say starring Tafwa. That means the main actor doesn't die. You know, like a truck will run over them, a bus will come, but they still get up and they're there as the main starring. And that's Honorable Albert for you. Thank you for you and your team. The ADEA team, is it possible you can just run to the front so people just see who you are, including Mr. Cham Kalimbika? Where is he? Run, run, run. You don't want to, please, I know you're humble. Come, come, come. ADEA, let's give them a big hand. The ADEA team. Come on, mommy, quickly. These guys are amazing. Where's the Zambian side? Zambia Kuchalo. Dr. Joan Kim, yes, Deliwe, where's Jeff Banda, Mr. Manengu? Come on, everybody come to the front. Jacqueline. And I'll take this opportunity to say congratulations, Jacqueline, on your new appointment in ADEA. A big hand for our ADEA team. Okay, no, you know, let's start again. Let me say that again, okay? Let's give them a big hand. Job well done. These people haven't slept an inch. They have been up and about. They are amazing. Thankless, you know, they're amazing. Amazing team. So thank you guys. And except you, Honorable, you're not a guy. It's only the others who are guys. Yes. Okay, good. But thank you so much, team, for the hard work. God bless you. Honorable Minister, Your Excellency, being represented by the Minister, thank you so much for your time. We now come to the end of this official part of the program. We will take photos, and already the photographers, the professional photographers, not those ones where you take a picture of someone and only the nose can be seen. These are professional photographers. They're out there at the loan, and we're going to go there. So what's going to happen is we'll take pictures with the ministers, the deputy ministers, the partners, and then the rest of us. I wanted to say and others, but maybe it's, you know, just to make you feel good, the rest of us will be in those pictures. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll ask the Minister of Education to be upstanding, and also his fellow ministers to please be upstanding. And we'll have our young lady, Deliwe, to lead the way so that you know where to go. The deputy ministers can also follow behind. Okay. Let's have the ministers go. And then I'll kindly ask our partners to also join. Our partners, the permanent secretaries, please join in as well. So what's going to happen is after we have our photo session, we will then have our brunch, because we must have our breakfast since we missed it, and we are having our lunch just after the photo session. There are ladies going around giving meal allowance. Oh, not meal allowances. Oh dear. It's like meal must be followed by allowances, but meal cards, so that you all have access to the food that has been prepared for you. Can I have all the ministers, the deputy ministers, can I have the partners follow closely behind so that we can take pictures? May I also have the country representatives of the various organizations that are here? Country representatives, partners, and ministers, deputy ministers, the permanent secretaries, please go out of this auditorium, right out to the lawn, and you will have pictures taken.